Dawson in the comments over and over and over again. So that's cool. I'm just going back and looking at some of your comments here. And you gotta be patient, man.
Well, to be fair, it's my fault. I'm the one that announced 6 o'clock.
No, that's sometimes you just have stuff to do that's going on in the background, and
Yeah,
Reaper Metal going to be there live with Adam and Reaper. Do not be a word I'm not going to say, but
I hope that there's like a message or something that YouTube is or isn't sending out just yet. Because if there's only one person, or two people were there at one moment, this has been the
yeah.
build ever.
Well, I also subscribe to the channel so I can see when it comes up, and I see it's there. So we're live, and I saw the live announcement. So
Oh man, now we're really dogging. Oh, there we go. Never More Rules is here, so maybe.
nice.
Alrighty, well then, good. That's good enough for me to dive in. So,
Cool. Yeah, so I am glad to have our sort of monthly-ish live. As Reaper may or may not have said on camera, it's going to kind of have me guide this discussion a little more. This was sort of my push to have this. I just wanted to connect with the audience maybe on like a monthly-ish level, which would be cool. And just to touch base with the channel, I want to see some feedback from people who are watching, what they think of the videos, what they think of the quality, if they're good, the bad, the ugly, and how people like having these videos every day. It's an interesting thing for me to crank out. They're pretty easy videos, really no editing, as you could tell, but just to come up with topics and try to string them together, come up with some titles and everything. It's something I want to do where I do want to differentiate myself from other YouTubers, but at the same time, I'm not trying to be something unique that I'm not. I'm really just presenting myself. So, like this series of videos that came up just recently, they're all black metal videos. And I'm not the biggest black metal fan, but that's like every single black metal or black metal adjacent album I own for CD. Like that's everything. So, like for example, like Niflheim, the self-titled, I just bought that probably a couple months ago. The digibook came out on Hells. I had heard about it, picked it up, and enjoyed it. It was good, but it's not like it's my forte. So a lot of those CDs you were seeing are kind of like, you know, brand new, but it's still a genuine position where I actually do enjoy them. And then the ones I don't own, it's because I either haven't gotten into the bands yet, or they were bands that, like I mentioned in a previous video, where I bought a later Dark Funeral and thought it was okay, and didn't get into the newer stuff till, or the older stuff till recently, and it was like I kind of regretted buying that one, not even necessarily because the album wasn't good. It's sort of like similar with Iced Earth, because I know you're a fan, Reaper, and I got it because it was just on sale. I told the story. I was at FYE and there was a bunch of CDs on sale, and they're going out of business. So I grabbed like their mid discography album, and I didn't know how many singers they've been through. I don't know what they sound like, so I'm just going in blind. So
that's that. Now you're really getting me involved. Cause yeah, 'cause you did that. What was that series of videos called again?
they're like guilty pleasures. So guilty pleasures of the flesh, but metal edition, because I also have my non-metal edition, which started today, and I have about 5 more of those to come. So
So on your Guilty Pleasures of the Flesh Metal Edition, where you mentioned a later Iced Earth album, which Iced Earth album was it again?
sorry, Incorruptible, I believe.
Yeah, okay. So essentially, the quick one as an Iced Earth fan, that's like the return, I think, of Matt Barlow, like the classic era singer that they had. Really, their best singer, is like up until there, like he was like the third singer, and like it's not even. I don't even think it's a contest, and most people would agree that like at least the first singer they had, like he was absolutely horrible, like never sang, no fuck he's doing, like horrible. Where then the next guy just kind of like his voice didn't really work out as well. So the band and like I'm not, and it's not just my opinion or like some fans' opinion because it's the fucking band's opinion too. So like this would have been, so as I'm like watching, I'm like, oh, you said something about, like the worst album to get into. I'm like, I would recommend an album. Which one would it be? So I was thinking Days of Purgatory. So because this is essentially then band, well, oh, the classic guy then came third. It's almost like for an hour on the third, they found the guy stuck around. So they then by four, I guess, did Days of Purgatory, which we released Jewing, the first only like the best of in a way. All, uh, which however, I listened to, so it was on my mind. I was like, well, I haven't really listened to it in a while, so I put it. I and now I because like just kind of like hit away. And that isn't like just record, but it is like kind of like iced earth in a way. By which I like this is literally a riff that's on there.
Yeah, Reaper, your audio's cutting out. I
Oh,
heard like every other word. I thought it was my internet, but then Fraser said that you're really cutting out.
can you hear? Maybe is it better now? Because like I had it on a metal night or like a metal stand.
Yeah, no, I can hear it better now. I just wasn't
But
sure if it was just me.
it might be that and like giving like a shitty reflection. Well, that kind of botches my iced earth example that I was gonna play the whole most like one of the dumbest riffs. But there's just stupidity in the songwriting, and I found myself rather annoyed. So if anybody needs a copy of the double disc version of Iced Earth Take Us Purgatory, please buy it because I don't want it anymore. So I don't think I got anything for Iced Earth to recommend because then it's like almost like the opposite. If it's like a guilty pleasure or like you got into it at the wrong era, like, well, what about like do you have to like be married to it forever? Like, what if there's like 20 years later, like me, that like then you listen back, like, mm, you know?
Hmm. Well, there's
So
two layers to it. There's a couple layers. One is I mentioned in that video, a lot of those albums I listened to once, so I really got to give them another listen. And another way, again, to differentiate myself, and not that there's anything wrong with other YouTubers who do videos on metal daily. You might know who I'm talking about. Their philosophy is different than mine, and it's totally valid to have either philosophy. Their philosophy seems to be that if you hear one bad album, even if the band has been around for 20 years, that if you listen to 10 albums you don't like, or you do like, sorry, and your 11th is one you don't, then you're done with that band forever. And my philosophy is every album is different. That's sort of why genreing, subgenreing bands is really difficult because sometimes bands are different for each album. So, for example, Bathory, they're like the first black metal album, essentially. I won't really consider Venom to be black metal, even though they coined the term. But listen to the difference between early Bathory and then something like Requiem. That's basically thrash. And then their later stuff, the Nordlands albums, those are kind of like folk metal. So if you were to say, I like this band, well, which era of the band? And if you were to
right,
give up, I mean, maybe later stuff you would like by them, or if you listen to it again in a different context, you would like it. It's just sort of unfair to say, well, they put out one bad album, they're done. Another example, like the example in this case was Metallica. It's like they put out Load and Reload. That sucks. Well, okay, but their later stuff's okay. It's not that bad. And I'm not going to dismiss them totally because they just completely changed course because they could come back. You never know. So, another example
yeah,
to that, I just had in my head, I actually forgot it, but basically the same kind of concept where they could differentiate, they could deviate, but then come back. Oh, Mayhem, that's what it was. Again, I'm not a big Mayhem fan. I enjoy Rey Mysterious for what it's worth. I think Attila's vocals are kind of goofy. I like Tormentor better, like his vocals on that. But I enjoy it. It's okay. And then they kind of went off the rails, completely different. But then you listen to their newest album that came out a little while ago, Damien, whatever it was, and it's kind of okay. That was an example of a band that, went way different, but then kind of brought the sound back. So I can still enjoy that if I'm a Mayhem fan
right.
and thinking back to like the earlier stuff and not feel betrayed by them necessarily. You
I
know.
also kind of think though that mindset is almost kind of like analyzing like your grandparents' behaviors. So like what I mean by that is like it. I don't think that it's overall like if for a while it was, but that's kind of what I mean. Like the generation is getting older, so like the people that grew up with black metal from the '90s, say, and then like they're still looking back at what 15-year-olds did, and like, oh my god, it's such the it's the finest masterpiece, and it's a band like Mayhem that is still around putting out records, and it's like they can never outdo their 15-year-old self, or like you, the nearly 50-year-old fan, can't outdo your way of thinking because at the end of the day like even if it's all fun like being a fan kind of chat, but like if you're really analyzing shit with that much like bother that, like, oh my god, they did one bad record later on out of 20 albums, and that forever prevents me from listening to any new thing that they ever do. And it's just like, in a world of like, you don't have to buy it and pay 20 bucks or whatever it would have been, because that's where I think like the 90s mentality, that generation is kind of like still thinking through, like put it on YouTube. If it sucks, turn it off. Like zero vested, unlike the old days, which you're really kind of bitching about then. Like, because yeah, if you got a shit record and you just paid 10 bucks for a turd and you had to keep it, you
Yeah,
know? So,
exactly, and that's where I totally understand the difference, and that's why I say it's just a matter of mentality, and also to your point when you were born. Because my thought is, well, I feel like people are missing out, but if someone who does have way more records than I do, they're not really missing out if they kind of the other thing is dismissing bands straight out because oh I've never heard them and oh well they sound like a band I won't like. I'm 99% sure because they fit into this category I won't like them. So the Black Dahlia Murder comes up a lot, and that example has been used in the past on Hellcast and stuff. And
mm,
there's nothing inherently wrong with saying the name sounds like something I won't like. It's got the sentence name or they deathcore, they fit into that category I don't like. That you're not really, I guess you're sort of missing out, but you're not. So that's where I try to be a little more open minded, where I would rather listen to something and definitively know whether or not I like it, which is why with those bands that I told I regretted buying, again, I will still give them another listen. I'm not going to dismiss other music by them. But if you're sitting in front of the camera and you have, 80,000 records behind you, I'm being hyperbolic, but you have a lot, I feel like, okay, you're not really missing out. But if you're that late 90s guy or the early 90s guy, the late 80s guy who listens to the demos only and says nothing's death metal past Possessed, I go, maybe you are missing out. And especially that position, just like any other position, is fine to have. But don't come at me and say, oh, Adam likes Revocation, a band that came out in the early 2000s. By name only, they probably suck. It's like, yeah, but have you listened to them? Like, you haven't even tried. So you can't just tell me you don't like it straight out. So
well,
that's
plus
kind
too,
of where I differentiate.
it's also still just, if you were to take that kind of logic anywhere else in life, like, so let's say to a job, like if you stop paying attention to rocket technology in the 1970s, and then you're expecting to, you're getting fired because there's some young guy that understands a new one that involves computers and algorithms and all this crap. Like, it's fucking stupid, and it's you're the problem. So like I'm we're all real proud of you, I guess, that like you were born in 1980 something, or whatever, you were around for 1980 something for the Possessed demo. But like, there are bands that are heavy and that you would call death metal. Like, it doesn't make Possessed any different. Like, it just means that you have a stupid perspective that you're holding on to. And if I don't know, if you're thinking like me, it kind of looks dumb. Like, to be, like you're if you're 50 years old and you're thinking that, like, what that really means is like you're still thinking like 16-year-old you that heard Possessed back in 1985. Like, there's other death metal records, like, and nobody at school like gives a shit that if you were to like Black Dahlia Murder, what's a band that calls themselves death metal that people would be mad that, like, that a Possessed fan
Oh,
wouldn't like?
maybe like Blood Incantation, especially them because they're sort of definitely more like a progressive style and they experiment more. So, I mean,
Yeah.
they're in a maybe a more extreme example.
Well, they're still an example. It's a newer, and it's like, yeah, like, I don't like them. Okay, like, that's it. Like, it's like nobody's gonna give you a wedgie. Like, it's like, I don't know, like Fast Times at Richmond High, or like some sort of like era of like high school mind. Um, that's how I see it. Because like, from a different angle too, of like the nerds that we will be as music fans, I guess, is the overall theme that's like running through my mind. So the different angle of that than just being like a record collector, like, a chat with your buddies, but then like creating content now, because again, it's a generational thing. It didn't exist in the 80s, so like everybody's got essentially like their radio, like, access to then like be their own, like, maybe radio show or something, that like, if you're running a radio show, like, you want people to listen to it then. So then you're going to be accessing like the easiest types of content, ideas that people are going to latch onto. So negativity is like boom right out the gate. So like, it behooves you now more than ever to like have a negative opinion about something as dumb as like, I don't care about anything after 1985, and like, it's like, all right, that's fine. Like, because then it just in my head goes nowhere more. Because then otherwise, like, you have to then be like, ooh, yeah, that sounds like an interesting topic to have. Um, because then I don't know, I felt like I kind of the same way as I do, like, just throughout liking music, and you run into fans that are like, it's just like, okay, like, you're still being a 15-year-old, like, and then you go to a different facet of it. So, like, like podcasting or whatever, where it's then like, people call that out too, like, you cut your hair, like, you one time ago you ragged on bands that did that, and like, and you're doing the same thing, and it's just like, yeah, I guess, like, I said that when I was 25. Now I'm nearly 40. Like, I don't know. Couldn't help it. Didn't fucking, you know, didn't like fail safe proof or safe proof myself from saying something that didn't align with future self, or you know what I mean? So that's
Oh,
kind
of
of where
course.
all the mindset it goes. And it's kind of silly because it's at the end of the day, just like, all right, you didn't like it. What did you like? Like, is there something like, what am I missing out on? Because like, it sucked.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Let's move on. What's next? Like, tell me something
yeah.
good.
To me, it's all about being genuine because if you really don't like anything past 87, 89, 91, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just our conversation is going to end pretty quickly because
Yeah.
there's a lot of great music that came out then that I am very unfamiliar with. I'm now just going back to the classics, some of the demos, some of the bands that only put out an EP or a compilation, like I don't know, a band like a Necrovore or a band like Insanity with Fire, Death, Fate, the bands that get thrown around a lot, in that extreme underground sort of world, and I'm unfamiliar with it, and I'm sort of like,
Yeah.
a student of the genre. I like learning about it, but our conversation will be pretty short when then I turn around and go, "Yeah, hey man, you might really like this band. I don't know. Let's use an HH band that I'm familiar with that I like is Spider. They're great. I have their first album, their EP. They put out a split 7-inch, and I'm hoping the demo comes out too. And it's like they're probably in the realm of music some people would like to because they're not super extreme. They would probably fit in with the early Bathory and say Venom fans. But it's like if you don't check anything out, you're not going to like them. So our conversation's done. I can learn from you, but you can't learn from me. So that's kind of boring. That's a one-way street.
Yeah, like, who the fuck are you to be like, I'm 50 and I like Possessed 1985, and you said Blood Incantation was death metal. You fucking, like, that's kind of what we're up against. Like, calm down, Tiger. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
So thinking of revisits then, and kind of like black metal-y things, because I'm kind of the same way. Like, I don't know how many things we could tally up and call black metal, and God forbid I you know fuck it up for the elitists that were, applauding at the end of that movie that came out that was about Varg and whatever that Macaulay Culkin's brother was in. What the hell was that called?
Oh yeah, that's the movie from the book. I don't think they
Yeah.
were applauding. I think they hated it. I don't know why I
No,
can't think
when
of
I
it,
saw it
but
in theater, there people were applauding.
oh, I thought they hated it because of the way Varg was portrayed and having
Depends on
Kieran
what theater
Culkin
and what
be
fans were there.
Euronymous and
Right.
yeah. I can't think of the movie name. I know it's the book. Um,
Right.
that's so funny. Someone in the comments is gonna know.
Well, and before they're like, posers, it was
Lords of
Lords of
Chaos.
Chaos.
Yes.
It's not. It
Yep.
was, well, the book's Lords of Chaos. Was the movie called that?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, somebody angrily, just so we should, because we, you at least have to document it. So if somebody doesn't do that, you must angrily comment, you posers, you didn't know. Until the Light Takes Us is a different one, Phil. We're talking about the actual reenactment that had Macaulay Culkin's brother. I mean, I got the
Yeah.
internet
Kieran
right in front
Culkin.
of the. Yeah, it was Lords of Chaos. Okay, cool. Well, anyway, I don't think the Lords of Chaos minded nerd would agree, at least it seems suggested, that Dissection counts as black metal, or at least the first two albums. So maybe it's one of those things that we're kind of talking about, because by album 3, it's satanic blackened heavy metal, really, in my opinion, if you had to give it a label.
Mm.
So going back to Re and Chaos, that everybody, or at least in my circle, hated when it came out. I was one of them, and I have been going back to it for a while now because I love this album. This album's awesome. Way different experience than Iced Earth. Especially like the musicianship. Like, it's always cool. Like, appreciate like the John, his writing. Then like there's a really cool. I don't know who the lead. I think one of the Black Dark, one of the Funerals. The Swedish band. Fucking man, I'm fucking tanking. I got a bunch of internet trolls that can rag on me. Dark Funeral. I thought one of the
Okay.
Dark Funeral guys was on this. Maybe the drummer or something. Let it be known in the comments if you know better than me. Anyway, whoever the fuck plays guitar on this wasn't on the other two records, is the point. And his lead playing's awesome. So way better. Unlike Iced Earth, which literally had like riffs that sounded like a 15-year-old that just learned what a power chord was and like, ooh, I can play this single notes. Like it just sounds stupid. Like bad writing. Uneducated, dumb writing. So anyway, Dissection was my revisit. So do you like that album?
I've
Give it a
never
chance?
listened to a single thing by them, so
No? Well then
yeah.
there you go. You can maybe broaden your potential if it, we don't know what the label is officially. Black metal though. Horizon with listening to just Dissection. I guess go in order. Start with the Somber Lane and then uh Storm of the Light's Bane
Yeah.
and Reign Chaos.
And I think that's another thing too you mentioned about how just differentiating, and this is sort of one of the conversations I like having is the older fans and the newer fans. You're right. You don't have to necessarily go out and buy and make the mistake of, the money you saved up from your lunch money all week, or the money you made mowing lawns, and you buy an album and it sucks. That is a different vibe. That is a different thing you had to go through that I don't. So I do appreciate the fact that I could check out a band that maybe would suck, and then um, I don't have to necessarily make the mistake of purchasing it or flipping it. But I mean, hey, if you want to give credit where credit is due, I know the story's been told, but that's how Hell started, right? I mean, it was Eric and Chase and maybe Justin selling the CDs they didn't want anymore, flipping them, saying, I'm going to get rid of them. And then they said, hey, all three of us are buying the same album. Let's buy six instead of three at a cheaper rate and then resell them. So, in theory, buying a bad album gives you funny stories, and it also can turn into Hell's Headbangers. So, you never know.
There you go. So then I kept going. Well, you were talking like guilty pleasures or whatever. Because then you kind of like Iced Earth send me to go down like revisit lane. I mean, if you've heard the album before, like, isn't every time you listen to it revisiting? Um, so I know I brought it up before, but I absolutely love it every single time. Black Rat. Have
Yeah.
you ever jammed this?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I have the CDLP.
Do you like it?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I remember. I think you were wearing a shirt at one point. And maybe it was a live that we did or something. But I commented. I think maybe you were doing it yourself, and I mentioned that I picked up that CD and LP.
Nice. So for everybody else, that's Dread Reverence. Shadow Kingdom Records put it out. It's on CD and LP. I don't know. Then you might be able to still get it at Hell's. Like it wasn't like
Yeah,
flying off
I
the
think
shelf
so.
because it's pretty awesome. So it should fly off the shelves. Um, because yeah, I mean, I just love like I mean, it's nothing like groundbreakingly new, but like it's pretty ferocious in the vocal department. I like how like there's kind of like a two different vocalists then too, to just kind of go off the rails with it because they're vocals are pretty crazy. Um, and cool, just like kind of darker vibes to than what otherwise would be thrash. I say it like that too because it's like if you say something like blackened thrash or whatever, which you guess you could, that I just think that might put the wrong vision in your head. It's not descript enough. Kind of like
Yeah,
how people say that for like really for any band. So like Lady Beast comes to mind because they got a new album, and how like people will be like, oh, it sounds like Iron Maiden. But if you really think about it, like that is not very descript. Like so, like so does that mean Paul Di'Anno era? Does that mean Blaze Bailey era? Does that mean they have 20-minute songs with unnecessary boredom? Um, Bruce Dickinson era, like cool mascot, like bass playing is like Steve Harris. Do they do gallops? Like what do you mean? Like there's much to be said there. Does it sound, you know what I mean? Like Fear of the Dark as opposed to which is a boring ass record in my opinion. As opposed to Number of the Beast or something, or uh Power Slave. So anyway, with that said, then it put me in the mood for because there are some Bruce era Maiden albums that are the ones that I described, not so good. No Prayer for the Dying, like that one's beyond like one song, like it's kind of like whoa. Because then Bruce solo. So Tyranny of Souls. Because actually I saw that like I guess he's calling it something else, but I always thought Bruce solo was better than at least later half Maiden. Because man, it just gets to be like 12-minute songs and pure boredom. where like Bruce kind of jams, so it's got like thrashy parts, then it's like heavy, like, and then each album's kind of different. So it's like, Bruce, keep doing this. Like, I know Maiden Money's good, but like, I don't really care about Keep Following It. Because yeah, this has been a moment, and this was the last record. But I think he's doing a new band where like essentially it's called something else. I don't know. I ran on the internet. I ran into some like sort of tour thing that he was doing. It was called something else, and then I forgot to listen to it. Nonetheless, I revisited this today, and it was way better than Iced Earth. So it's still held up. However, there is some very obviously like edited drums. They sound so fake and like just like as if like the studio guy like sat there like for 40 hours working on like one double kick loop and finally like got it, but it's so perfect that it just like sounds like a computer. Good job. Wasn't what we were looking for. Print it. So there you go. Those are my revisits. Anyway.
Yeah.
Have you rocked some solo Bruce?
No, and then speaking of Iron Maiden, that's one of those bands I never really got into the classic of the classics, and I only recently bought their first 7 albums, and especially the first two. I know Paul just passed, but I was not a fan. I mean, Killers is pretty good, but the self-titled I just didn't care for. And I know, speaking of the comment section, I know Fraser Dawson lost his mind when I said I didn't like Iron Maiden that much, but that's one of those examples opposite to what I was saying before. Is I feel like since I wasn't there for those eras and I wasn't there for the growth of metal, it kind of makes sense to go back and check it out and just give my honest opinion, but at least listen to it. I'm not going to say I don't like it if I don't at least listen to it. And I think that's the big thing I was kind of mentioning before, where it's like with Iced Earth, I listened to one album, didn't care for it, but I want to listen to their other stuff. And I'm going to talk to someone like you who is a fan who could point me into a direction of maybe you'll like this more than others.
Well, I don't know.
Same with
I might not be a fan anymore. I was quite disappointed. I was so disappointed. I grabbed my guitar to like figure out the riff, and I'm like, yeah, it is stupid. Because so anyway, I didn't go back through the whole Iced Earth discography to find out if I'm as disappointed with the rest of it. It seems dialed in. It's kind of like the Bruce thing, like as if like they just sat in the studio and like behind Pro Tools for so long piecing together and anybody that knows my music like I'm guilt by association, like we've done it, like the music world, like you almost get stuck in that, but like it just seems like overtly obvious, kind of like a later King Diamond album, like they just like it has the like its perfection is so boring that it just like seems like like Annie LaRoe, like, yeah, you're nailing it, man. Those shreds, great. It's perfect. Like, I can tell that you played it a million times because you sound bored. But it was perfect. So that's kind of my review on certain records like that, and at least what the problem is on it. Random remark: Magnus from Poland, awesome, right? Remember I put out Scarlet Slaughterer going with old school Reaper Metal releases.
Oh yeah, I butchered my mother own. I'll never forget that one.
So butcher your wall own, because somebody please buy this Magnus metal logo thing, because I don't know what to do with it, and I've had it for nearly 20 years, and it like always sits in a corner and falls over or something. And now I think like there'd be a raging fan that would appreciate it more than me, because it's literally a piece of metal that I think some guy in Chicago gave me once upon a time. So I'm gonna put it on the Reaper Metal Bandcamp because it's just a lug of metal. But it's cool. I just don't want it. And while you're there, I didn't know these weren't listed. So back in stock, 20 years damned. See if you're like thinking in 1985 mentality. Well, then damn yourself for 20 years is the overall idea here. If you're gonna relive the past and blah blah blah, I have no idea. I'm just saying something stupid. Because otherwise, double CD of Crucified Mortals, but then the rest of them weren't on there either. So, bandcamp.com, Reaper Metal Production. Get your copy today. Links in the description. And then we've got really exciting news. It's so YouTube now like has this feature where you can tag products, and it'll be at the bottom of the video. And so like every other YouTuber does that, and I'm like, huh. that would be a cool feature if I could actually put my own shit on there and not have to then put like whatever god awful print on demand like t-shirt place that people use that then and not so much like the quality of shirt you get, although that can be an issue, but like because the print on demand, like they gouge you so much for like to get it done as the guy like using them as a printer that then you to actually like make a buck have to like really gouge your customers to charge like $30 for a t-shirt that has a logo like this decimation shirt and it's just a ripoff. So that's part of my gripes of why their new tag products feature sucks ass. And so the big announcement is apparently you can get the back catalog of Crucify Mortals at Walmart. So if you need the rare demo LP, I guess you can get it at Walmart. I don't know if it's in stock at Walmart. That one only had 100 copies, but they did have like the entire catalog. Because then I was gonna do it just to be a prick. Um, to then tag this video with Crucify Mortals products, because that's why because I was like, what is this tag product crap? And then like so I then Crucify Mortals, see like does like the Reaper Metal band can't come up? Like, what does that mean to tag a product? Can I put my own link in there like I really want to? You know? Nope, no, you cannot. You can only use that who YouTube is affiliated with. So it's just like, well, fuck that then. Like, get you a Crucify Mortals CD, but like not from Walmart. Granted, that kind of sucks then because it's like because then I'm starting to think of like how corporate America's taken over small business. This is one of the ways that it happens. Is like because if you were to think like, well, Walmart took it isn't like it's this Warner Brothers release or something. And even then, like, there's only so many Crucify Mortals LPs that they're selling that were ever pressed. So, like, if Walmart has 10 of them, then I kind of want all 10 to be sold out. But I don't want them to make any money because fuck Walmart. Granted, you just went to Walmart today, damn it, right? Did you Did you go to the CD section of CS? It's only online. But yeah, I don't know. It at least like was stupid because like for in this whole world of that most annoying job title ever, creatives. You know how YouTubers call them like we creatives. Like just call yourself a video maker. Like what does that mean? Creatives? Like is that even a word? And then you're giving create because then they call themselves creators. Like no, it's like now creators like now I can't wear my creator shirt anymore. No, you can't. But like you're fucking up the name, man, with your dumb Amazon product. Like it's an Amazon product, and that's what some of this shit turns into. Then, so that's also the problem of killing the bad business that I can't put my Reaper Metal link to tag a product. No, it has to be Walmart. Well, like fuck that, because then that's where it just makes it lame. Like they call the shots then essentially. So then that's like too like there's woke culture. It's like well it's kind of woke in the regards of like everybody's convenience of then potentially buying an underground metal CD at Walmart that then they allows them to take over the whole small business aspect monetarily, but then call the shots. So like that's where then you get like I don't know, Mayhem. That wouldn't really be a good idea to put that guy's blown out brains on your cover. Like, we at Walmart do not approve. And then music suffers because, like, that's kind of what made Mayhem, I don't think I need to explain.
Yeah.
So.
And if you make the mistake of buying a CD from Walmart, you're not going to realize, maybe, which I did by accident, that they censor their music. I bought a pretty tame album. It's the band The Offspring. If you know anything about me, you know they're one of my favorites, if not my favorite band ever. And I bought an album by them at Walmart mistakenly, and it was censored. And there's only a couple words censored here and there. But it's just it's just an extra step of, okay, so I'm going out of my way to buy from one of the biggest stores in the whole world that really shouldn't, we obviously shouldn't continue to support them the best we can, but that's a whole nother conversation. And again, I know I was just there, but it's like the CDs, okay, it's convenient. You can buy, like I didn't show it yet in my videos, but 6-pack of the original horror movies from the 1920s and 30s. And I know Reap is a huge fan of them. So the original, monster movies. Exactly.
I got this at Walmart.
So it's like convenient. You can grab it, but then what are they going to censor it? So it's like they're taking your link away, and it's just one more step that they can hop in and just sort of extract every extra penny from you, and sometimes without even knowing. So
Yeah, so as James G. Philosopher, which the appropriate screen name reminds us with his philosophy, in that this is capitalism. So if there's any sort of takeaway, uh, don't go to Walmart to get your music. Um, but yeah, so that was the big news because I just thought that was hilarious. Like, you tag your products. You're not going to really get it. Oh, and then it was like a weird because then you make commission. So in a way, it's kind of like, so I could help Walmart get rid of their 10 Crucify Mortal CD in their warehouse that they've had for 20 years, and make 3% on their sale. But it is like $30 for an LP I have like 100 of in my basement. So it's like now you're ripping your clients off, essentially, your
Yeah.
fans and whatever off. Um, so it's a problem, and it's just easy to kind of be like, whatever, it's convenient. I can get my bananas, I can get my beef, and I can get my Cannibal Corpse all at Walmart. It's great.
Yeah.
People are like that. So I think that's a way bigger fish to fry to give a flying fuck as a music fan than you call blood incantation, and I don't agree because I'm a dork. That's true death metal because true death metal started and ended with Possessed. It kind of worked when it was Death Mantis, Cam Lee, but after that, Sound of Perseverance, that what? Like that dork. um, like Walmart's taken over the underground, and they destroyed such things as Xerox zines and all the other shit that was true of death metal too. So I don't really think that people creating music that you just don't agree with the label of, or want to be surrounded by the fans of, or insert your reason here because I kind of don't know what it is other than like giving a fuck about holding on to your 10-year-old mentality, because then upgrade to the present now mentality of a 50-year-old or however old you are, as Walmart is destroying music. Because again, imagine Dawn of the Black Hearts Mayhem coming out on Walmart. There's going to be no dead photo. And then think about like what that would do to like the history of black metal. Like let's reverse engineer that. Like Walmart was around in the 90s, that you could tag your like you can be a creative on YouTube in 1990 and be like, all right, links in the description, man. Get this new band called Mayhem. There was this guy that thought about blowing off his head, and then they were going to use it as the cover, but Walmart said, don't do that. Talk it out peacefully, guys. And then when you put out a record, hail the church and call it unblack metal. But Dawn of the Black Hearts sounds good. You know what I mean? Like what would happen? This is like a Philip K. Dick kind of novel of like the history of black metal. I'm on to something here.
Well, even
Yeah.
with death metal, what would have happened if Al Gore and Bob Dole won?
Yeah,
You
really.
know?
You don't have you don't have a Glenn Benton that ever looked like he did. You don't have like some of this stuff. So like that's just like if you were to rewrite history, every poem that ever was. I was gonna start quoting the Megadeth song "Hook and Mouth," which is kind of the point of that song, by the way. I'm not a fish, I'm a man, hook and mouth. But like there is that line, like they rewrite every history, every poem that ever was something something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's essentially all the kind of like technological warnings that literature, not just metal in this case, like has brought up. But honestly, too, like if it in a way though, because like I use the Megadeth example, but like that makes like and that album that was like from So Far So Good So What. So like it's not now like my I'm shifting focus to like 80s metal in general, 80s hardcore, 80s punk, shit from past that like these are the defining characteristics of the music that we know and love now. And it's their roots. So like punk, anti-establishment, anti the man. Well, like what the fuck do you think then? Bino, and let's say that's Henry Rollins then screaming from the top of a Washington D.C. Stage, fuck the man. And then fast forward 40 years later, when you're getting his that live album in the mail, a Black Flag from Walmart, fuck
Yeah.
the man, and you're like, yeah, maybe not. I just threw him $10 for this fucking live CD, like so like it's hypocritical then too. And in a way, your Rollins, these examples that you could use, you know, the very people that said it back then, they don't give a fuck now as the man is taking over. So if Possessed were the true conveyors of death metal and Henry Rollins was the true conveyor of anti-establishment, well, 40 years later, they don't give a fuck. And it's, yes, I love the man. Walmart did a great job. I made 3.5% when you bought my Walmart CD. And I'm in debt to the label. And that's a 40-year-old recording. And now I'm still making money on it. Thanks, Walmart. Bought up, or that's McDonald's.
Hey, it's basically the same thing. It's essentially the same. Just a little bit of switch there.
Yep. So James G. Philosopher's in the house. So Reap Philosophy needs to be going on board. But yeah, so like it just makes all that shit like lame then. In a
Well,
like
that's a good segue.
multitude of ways.
That's a good reason to support the smaller artists, the smaller labels, the smaller YouTubers, the people who are keeping this stuff alive, or the larger labels and bands too, but the ones who do still have that same mentality and stuck to their principles. Because it's not about size, it's more about the power that you hold with the size you have or you don't have. Because even if you are, let's say, Walmart size, chances are you got there by stepping on toes. So it's almost like by definition that there's something, that's corrupt about you. But some of the larger labels or the larger bands, but the ones that actually keep it true. And let's say like a Cannibal Corpse, they keep bringing on bands like a Perdition Temple or just bands that aren't as well known, and they try to force the label to keep those kind of things going. And they're wearing shirts of, let's say, a band that came out a couple of years ago that Corpse Grinder or Paul or Alex genuinely like. Then it's not about the size of the band, but it is about the message, and they're sticking to that sort of DIY mentality, which to your point about punk as well. If Henry Rollins is sitting in a multi-million-dollar home and selling his music to Walmart and Sony, it's like, well, okay, then you're right. That's an example of you're not buying punk anymore. You're buying corporate sludge that turns into something that looks like punk. And
Yeah.
it's like you have the most anti-establishment type of music out there being sold at Walmart. To your point, yeah, it's just sort of an irony that I think flows past a lot of people.
Yeah. And the very same outraged types that would almost even willingly keep it going, like if it was even broken down for them, because at that point, like, it's going to be an inconvenience for you because you kind of liked the idea of getting Dawn of the Black Hearts and your banana all in the same place. So I I don't know, just yeah, because like especially I remember when because you said how you brought up how you bought a CD at Walmart, and that took me back to like back in the day when like because as I guess most people my age perhaps I just remember like it seemed like like super Walmarts. So the conquering of the throne of corporate America story of Walmart begins in like the success story seems to begin in the South, because I remember like being an Ohioan and then going to Georgia and seeing the first ever. So this is like I don't know, let's say it's 1995, and like super Walmart, like that place that we never go to because there's nothing to buy there, like has groceries, and it's called a super Walmart down here in Georgia. Like, huh? Like we've got Super Kmart. Like, who would ever go anywhere else? Then like now there's no such thing as a Kmart or a Super Kmart or a Sears who bought them out. Like for the most part, and it's like, and then now Walmart's taking over the world. Well, this is what it looks like, by the way. Don't you love it? So, um, but yeah, so then I remember as they expanded, so then like at least mine, because it wasn't a super Walmart, but as it became super Walmart, they did have a CD section. So like if you went and bought Ozzy or something that had like, performers that they didn't want to pay, so Ozzy and Sharon just re-recorded so they didn't have to pay them. But then Walmart said, there's that one poo-poo word in there, damn, that we're gonna like, redo Ozzy or probably even bleep. You didn't even get the gratification of like the CD that you paid good money for that still have a parental advisory on it to warn you, you a grown man, like you're not allowed to hear the word damn on that Ozzy record. And we're going to make it blatantly obvious too, because it's going to be like, like something like where he didn't even like have the decency to like, make it darn, you know. So you just get a turd, and the stream of unnecessary capitalism takeover is an uglier aurora boreas of a horrible cycle of, I don't know what the fucking, we got a philosopher in the house here. So no, I lost my train of thought on that one. I think if my rant has expired, I've made my point. And It still's not going to make this Iced Earth CD any better, though. They should have edited that riff out. Hey, let's say hello to some folks. Jacob's here. Fraser, how many screen names do you have at this point? Because you always confuse me. So, like, I am the #1 king, ain't no poser. Like, it's a screen name, not a sentence, but you've managed to do it. Necron. So anybody else? James, Wicked Devil.
Okay, see, you're seeing comments. I'm not seeing anything.
Necrophil. Yeah. Oh, you don't see any comments? Maybe it's like being.
I only see a couple. The last one was. Yeah, the last one was from Danny. I see a little like siren, and then Fraser came in asking us if we're gonna bring him on or not, and that must have been 15 minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, Adam can't even see comments, so we can't figure out how to get a third person on Fraser. So blame it on YouTube. They got mad at me because I said don't shop at Walmart, and that's one of their affiliates, and they want their 3% back, which is why we need super chats from you, because we're making a very delightful Saturday evening out of this broadcast system that corporate America supplied to us, and they cut us out. It was a picture. They said bananas are going to be full price. Fuck you. You said, Dawn of the Black Hearts had a censored cover, and it sucks.
Oh, there we go. Well, I might now be able to see everything, but yeah. Well, if we can get Fraser on at some point, we will. Otherwise, I don't know how that works because Reaper's the one that sent me the link. Full disclosure. So,
well, if nothing else, we'll figure out later on. Because we came here with a purpose. And so since you're the guy running the helm, Walmart was definitely not on the list of topics. So where were we going after the potential guilty pleasures that you were talking about, and channel review, and the shit that you said 47 minutes ago?
yeah, well, so the few things I wanted to possibly talk about. One is going to be concerts, traveling to shows, venues, what people think about particular venues, including down to the parking, down to where they stick the poor group of people. Whether it's, if your stage is in the center and you have the people selling their music off to the right and the toilet's a little too close, and you happen to be Adam going up to Boston seeing a band called Demiser, and you have a very large bassist who takes a really disgusting toilet break, and it smells so bad that it sticks with you ever since.
Oh yeah.
So that was a fun little instance there. I was up near Boston, and I was seeing Nunslaughter with Demiser and Desolus. And right before Desolus was going on, I was hanging out in the corner trying to get some signatures. I was waiting for Noah, aka Tormentor, Nunslaughter, and Wrath was there. So he's the drummer of Nunslaughter, and a few members of Demiser. And one of the guys, the larger guy, even larger than me, if you believe it or not, sneaks off to the bathroom and then proudly comes out with a smile on his face. And a few seconds later, I figured out why. So, I don't know if anyone in the comments has ever been to a venue where the bathroom was a little bit too close to where the merch was being sold, but I definitely discovered that for myself.
That was in Boston?
Yeah, so that was in this place called the Middle East. So there's actually, I didn't realize when I first went there, and this is sort of where the story got kind of funny, was there's a place called the Sonia, I think it's called, which it's in Cambridge. It's right outside of Boston. That's where I saw Exhumed recently. So it was the meet and greet where I got to hang out with the band for like an hour or so. And I got to say, man, I know you know Mike Hamilton because you work with him sometimes. Yeah. Those are like some of the nicest people you ever meet in a band. So they were really cool to hang out with. But I didn't realize that club is attached to the Middle East, which is underground and above ground. So my cousin and I, who's never been to that venue, go to the underground. I guess there was a goth show going on. We turn around, this tall guy's behind us, and he's like, hey, yeah, I'm going to the show too. He's like, oh, who are you? He's like, oh, yeah, I'm the drummer of Nunslaughter. Oh, okay, well, I'm following you. So we followed the drummer of Nunslaughter to the correct club because there was an upstairs and a downstairs, and but I've noticed, like, as a New Englander, it's tough because you have to kind of choose. So being from Connecticut, not a lot of venues come through here. So when I hear people from Ohio talking about how they don't have shows that come through there once in a while, I look at it, I go, yeah, but there's also a lot of venues, and especially if you're willing to travel even to Pittsburgh, any of the different corners of Ohio. There's some states that have it really, really good when it comes to venues, and some that don't. So
Right.
Connecticut isn't great, so we got to choose Boston or New York most of the time. And then if you're from Massachusetts, you have Boston. But if you're above there and you're in New Hampshire, Vermont, or Maine, you're driving down to Mass. You're in Rhode Island. There's some places there, but otherwise you're going to New York or New Jersey. So I guess I just personally don't take venues for granted, and I don't take a 2.5 hour drive for granted either, because that's kind of normal for me to go up to like the Boston area, and so that's sort of par for the course. So with people talk about having to go to shorter shows that are definitely closer, or they worry about being 50 minutes away, I go, it could be much worse. So I'm just curious what people in the comments go through, what their standard is. So let's say a show's coming through, and it's one of your favorite bands, and they're going to be 2.5 hours away. Like, is that too far? Is that something that people who are willing to go to? And then especially people who go like me, maybe once a month, once every 2 months. It's like a little easier to say, well, driving a couple hours isn't bad. But if you're going to a show every weekend, that's going to be a little different. You're going to want venues down the street from you, and especially the free parking too, because like for me taking a train to New York, that's pretty expensive. Sometimes you got to
Yeah.
pay to park, then you got to pay to take a cab or an Uber from Grand Central to wherever the venue is, and then it just starts to become out of hand. And I go, okay, I'm going to just take the Boston show instead and drive there and maybe have a couple of minutes of traffic and a couple of handfuls of quarters to put in the parking meter, and that's about it. Otherwise, the only expense is gas, and I do get a couple of tolls, but that's about it.
Uh, yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, the man that we were so fondly speaking of a moment ago kind of is aware of those convenience, because it just makes me think of the drive to Pittsburgh. Like, once you get to the Pennsylvania line, like, boom, you get hit with a toll uh on the same exact highway system. So it's like totally a statewide thing, but it's like, we got you, Ohioans. Like, you're not getting to Pittsburgh any other way, and we know you're going for your concerts or whatever the hell. But yeah, like, I can be in Pittsburgh from Akron, where I'm at, in like an hour and 58 minutes. But then it is like a $15 toll. So it's like, damn, like 50 cents for a toll road I get, but $15 to go that, not even that far, when it's only two and a half, not even 2 hours away. Um, but yeah, because then realistically, to get like somewhere like Columbus, which is in the state, would actually be further.
Yeah.
Um, Cleveland could be a little bit about an hour. So yeah, it's kind of convenient when you look at it that way. But then again, I would have always thought like the New England area is kind of convenient too. There's a shit to, like, Connecticut's, like, it seems like whatever highway that is, that's like, connected to New York and just kind of goes along the coast. Um, there's like a city every 10 minutes. But as you kind of say, it's there's not as many bands and stuff, and if you do kind of put that to the challenge, I yeah, it would be pretty hard pressed to remember too many or name a band from Connecticut that isn't, like, super underground, just from knowing through playing shows or whatever. Because otherwise, like, yeah, overall, it's like, I don't know. Um, hey, Frazier, am I going to the show uh that Justin's doing? It sounds like it. Gonna be hosting a guest. So um Necrophil says he's seeing Beharit in September. Do you think it will suck? His words, not mine. I would I don't know. I would
Yeah,
just
that's an interesting one. I know Nuclear War Now is putting it on, and so from what I've heard through the grapevine, and I think through your brother's channel, and he heard it through the grapevine, so this is like third hand, fourth hand knowledge. But Holocausto was out of metal for a while, and probably still was, and I think they were actually given a lot of money at one point as an offer to perform, and they didn't. So the fact that he is, it's going to be a little suspect to see whether or not it's going to sound like Beharit. Plus, I can't say I'm the biggest fan. I do really like
Yeah, no.
the demo that they did in '91. So right, before Blood of the Black Oath, I think that's what it's called. Because again, that's all I really own. There's a 3-song demo they did under a different name. It's the same band. They just want to have it under a different name. It's called the Lord Diabolos, I think it's called, and the demo's called Down There, and I have it on LP, and it's great because Holocausto does this really cool thing where he pitch shifts his vocals up and down, and when it goes up, it sounds like an alien, and it's like something I've never heard before, so it's unique. But like, is he going to be playing that? I highly doubt it. It's going to be that weird synth stuff that, drawing down the moon and on and stuff I'm not familiar with, so I couldn't tell you if it's gonna. I'm not going to that show, but I'm not really the person to ask. So that's where the honesty comes into play. Of you're asking the wrong person. I think Reed probably knows even less about Beharit. So
I probably know more than you would think, but that's just happened to be like an encyclopedia by nature, because I used to just like everything that would come through Hell's, like I had to like check it in so I'd see it, and then I would have to like get an image and a description for it. So I kind of just like soaked up all that crap and like know more about stuff that I don't like care about. But I know that I don't care. But
yeah,
I've listened to it. It didn't really do anything for me. It's just the first 3 frets riff wise on the guitar, black metal stuff, down tune it, and then every song's the same. But Holocaust did kind of like experiment a lot, so there was stuff that was interesting. I don't know, some of that stuff, like for me, when it worked, it was more so like because it had like a cool overall sound, like
yeah,
it just sounded, gross, and like the first Autopsy, like that. This has nothing to do with Beharit, but like it just has awesome tone. Yeah, there's riffs and stuff, but at the end of the day, like I think more genres, like their attractiveness, like what I mean. So like we were talking about the Lords of Chaos era black metal stuff, like so something like Burzum, like its absolute shitty production was part of the charm. So like it's not so much about riffs then for that band. It's not so much about like, well, he's such a great singer, which then you put on. We were talking about Bruce Dickinson, so like he is a great singer. Like they do write good melodic sounding songs or whatever. Like so, there's different reasons that music works in different contexts. So Beharit, um, outside of their first demo, like that was where I like they didn't that raunchiness in the sound, like with just down tuned guitars and whatever the hell satanic, more bestial, lower tone rather than Norwegian black metal tone. It worked then. By the time they got to the Math Equation titled album, not so much. But
yeah,
Holocausto, as a musician, then clearly knew that too, and was experimenting with different things. So I don't know. I don't know what as far. So I'm also the wrong guy to ask if it's going to suck or not. But you want an answer? That's the one I got. I got a question for you. Are you going to do another Crucified Mortals? Are you still going to be a pussy? Well, I'm not being a pussy. As I'm just being slow. Cause yeah, I'm in the process. I'm literally sitting in a unorganized room of recording materials and shit, going through it. Because if you haven't picked up on how I describe and analyze other bands, how can you imagine how I am on myself? So that's where I get a little bit slow in churning out the material. Cause I yeah, it's going on though, but I do feel like I always say that, and then another year goes by, and then another year goes by. So this will hopefully be the year. Adam's heard demos. It's not. It is true. There is something. But yeah, it's just been taking long. But it is kind of that, like being victim to my own thoughts and expectations of other people become even worse upon myself, because it's like, if what influences you then is like almost a representation of in this case of like something that's like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to write that horrible Iced Earth riff. Like, how did they fall victim to it? Um, oh, right, they did this, like they did that, like, and I'm doing the same thing. That's why I don't like that one part of that song that I'm working on, and then it's like, well, then sometimes you don't know. Like once it's like, oh well, now I know I don't like that section. Fuck, now I lost a riff. I'm still working on shit. Cause then my gripe always is, and I want like everything on this just like to be like really the creepiest sounding record. And that's kind of hard to do when like, because again, like kind of the Barrett thing or the 90s black metal, like the mention of like certain music takes on its character, you know, in the clean singing Bruce Dickinson to then the, boombox, horrible sounded, black metal demo. Like the charms come in different places. So anyway, like wanting to have like dark sounding music that like, all right, like I know how to achieve that on a guitar. But like once you start adding like a heavy guitar, it starts to sometimes sound like shit when you use a dark sounding chord with a ton of distortion as opposed to a acoustic guitar that like it would sound fine with, but that's not metal. So like, you know, certain genres then like can get in the way of like how you would approach that. At least that's always like the module I'm trying to figure out. I've got my lists of complaints that I think a lot of bands like just have, and it's like how do you break that module? Because it's like it's kind of hard to unhear it or unthink it when you're the asshole that sees it and hears it. Um, the Iced Earth one was pretty obvious though. It was a bad riff. They shouldn't. They literally even opened the song with it. Like they could easily have not, and it would have been a better song. Um, and if I didn't have to hold my phone, I was ready to play it for you. But I have to hold my phone. Um, I'm really disgruntled about this record. But I really liked it, man. So I'm at the 20-year later, like, and then you're like, fuck, I don't really like this anymore, as opposed to all the other shit. Um, we're I hear, well, okay, so Eloise Richardson, don't be a pussy, is loving Fraser's remark. You gotta be careful though. The man's watching and he doesn't like your potty talk sometimes. And Fraser, you're one of the easy. See, look at this too, Fraser. Your sentence long screen name. If you just went by Fraser, like people like Eloise, who I assume don't know who you are, would know who we're talking about. Because I'm not going to be like, that's another great 20th point that I am the number one number king. I ain't poser said again, like Fraser, we're done. Like that's simple. So I recommend changing your screen name to Fraser and just stick with it. You don't need any more screen names. Anyway, I don't know. You meet me years ago. Did I read that right?
Thing, I don't know if you remember meeting you years ago.
Oh, yeah, I remember being in Austin and San Antonio, Fraser, other than like, well, I remember there was a group of like scenesters, I say it that way, from Houston, because like, it was like a group of buddies that were metal fans from Houston going like, we're gonna drive down to San Antonio. So if you were amongst that group, that's my question to you, because that would help me remember who I would meet. Yeah, and Jacob, the St. Iced Earth is pretty dark band. I know John is a nutcase, but I still like their catalog. That was what I was like, because Adam brought up how he like had the guilty pleasure and like bought the wrong Iced Earth album, which he sure did with that Incorrigible one. So I was gonna come back and be like, you know what, you got to get Days of Purgatory. And so then I was like, that's because that is the one, like, because like Burnt Offerings would definitely be like their darkest album. Like they got, yeah, Dante's Inferno on there, which is like not 20 minutes, 15, I think. It's kind of cool though, because the song itself goes through all the layers of hell. So it should be 15 minutes. It's purposefully long. And it goes all these different places. So like that's cool. Like way cooler than what you were jamming. So then when I went back to like jam it, like, yeah, see, I like this. And it's been a while. I'm like, there's definitely some stuff on it. I'm like, yeah, it's not holding up, man. And that was on Days of Purgatory. Because it's like also too, to like when you're describing to Adam or somebody that like, hey, you picked up the wrong Iced Earth album, like it is kind of hard. Like, Well, but don't start out with the first album. It's got good songs, but a shitty singer. And then they re-recorded it on a live album. Well, they did that too, but no. Then they did this comp called Days of Purgatory that was 2 CDs, so it had more songs that might be the songs I'm talking about. Because no, you fucked up again and you bought the single CD version. Because there is that too. So like you know what I mean? Like how the hell? So Days of Purgatory double disc. Start there. You'll know what I'm talking about. Because so that, but I don't know if that's going to be the recommendation right now. So hell, Jacob, recommend Adam where to start with Iced Earth outside Incorrigible, which that wasn't encouraged. It was very the title was not encourageable too. And not
Oh yeah,
end.
to Frasier. Cat's name is Button. That's who you're looking at right here. So she used to be in the shot. So
I don't know what you mean. You guys look hard. No cap.
that's some young kid cool language I don't know about.
I don't know.
No
I might
cap.
be the
No, I
only
do have
guy
a
like
cap.
maybe because maybe AF means as fuck. So like you
Yeah.
guys look hard as fuck, no cap. But I still don't know what that means.
Oh, no cap means like no, I'm not lying.
Huh.
I don't know. But speaking of cap, hey, that's a good transition. By the way, my cap is a band called Infinite Misery from Connecticut. So if you are a fan of Cannibal Corpse worship bands, and actually to throw it back to good old J Dog, who I sent him 1 CD in the mail and some stickers. So he's going to do hopefully a band review, 2 Connecticut bands, but one of which is Infinite Misery. They took his advice. So his advice was, if you're going to do a worship band of Deicide or Cannibal Corpse, try to find an artist, like in this case, who looks like the art that Vincent Locke does, Cannibal Corpse, and they did. So the art on the EP for this band, which I can't point to because I have a cat in my hand, but they used art that looks very similar. I don't know if it's the same artist, but they even went as far as picking an artist who looks like Vincent Locke. So the art on their EP, or the demo for now, kind of looks like the Eaten Back to Life guy. So if you're interested in Cannibal Corpse style bands, check out Infinite Misery.
Well, stop touching your pussy, Adam, and show us the T-shirt.
Oh, and the T-shirt here is a YouTuber, Killbot and Gorgor Attack. If you're not familiar with him, he just hit 10 years. So, and I might be working with him in the future, along with the person on the other half of the screen for the second half of the year for Unbaptized Records. So,
oh really?
Yes. So
cool.
I have two releases planned out. One of which is one that obviously you and I've talked about. I don't know if we mentioned it in the channel, but we can mention it at some point if people are interested. And then the other one is going to be from this gentleman right here, if you're not familiar. So, but more to come in the future.
Jacob says, start out, give Iced Earth Night of the Storm Rider album a shot. That's the second album.
Sure. Oh, and he also wanted to know if you listened to the band Uriah Heep, because I know I haven't. So he wants to know if you have.
Yeah, I have. And it took me a while to appreciate it because, like, when I listened to it first, basically because of Blind Guardian, covering The Wizard, one of their songs, which is like kind of an acoustic. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, The Wizard. I was about to say The Magician. Um, it was at a time where like I wanted everything to be heavy, so an acoustic tune didn't hit me as it does like now, where I appreciate stuff like that more. So I like Uriah Heep more so now than I did back then. But that was kind of like a thing too, like talking about Eister, talking about or like really like it makes me think of like early 2000s Central Media bands, so kind of like the power metal
Mhm.
scene in such in a way. A lot of the power metal guys like loved Uriah Heep. Like Uriah Heep was in some ways like described as like the inventors of power metal. Kind of like a Sabbath created or Tony Iommi wrote every riff, although he didn't. he, you know the so
Well, I
yeah.
should check them out because I'm a big power metal fan. Because to me, that's another subgenre of metal. I don't think it's enough love. Like I'm a huge Dragon Force fan. I know that people tend to talk about the Lord of the Rings, Dragons, Dungeons and Dragons stuff as being kind of corny, And then you have the people who think, metal has to be offensive, and if your mom likes it, it's not metal, which I disagree with. I think it's doesn't really matter, and I think it's a good palate cleanser to listen to all different types of metal, especially if you genuinely are curious. So I think giving power metal and folk metal a chance is something that maybe some of the people in the underground should do. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, the funny thing is too that like the mom remark, like it's like, and that's kind of to my gripe of like being a slow writing musician that like I have the gripe, but like some of these like bands that like either it's all overtly satanic or it's overtly disgusting, whatever the reason to offend mom. But then like musically, like they're using power chords, and stuff just to be heavy, and sometimes like they don't know shit about music, so like it sounds stupid. like dude, you're like I know that you're like proud of yourself for not understanding music theory, band that I'm ripping on, but like had you understood music theory, your ear would be trained to hear like it kind of sounds like a carnival ride right now because you're using power chords in unnecessary places. And then you're gurgle gargling about something gross. So mom might not be offended by your lyrics, and she just might be offended how dumb this music is. um that's a take that I've got. I don't know. I was in a band that wanted to offend mom, and at some point I didn't really give a shit that like mom, because mom wasn't offended. She was coming to my shows sometimes, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like I don't like. It doesn't seem like a word. Like I get what they're saying, but like at the end of the day, it's like I don't give a fuck. Like the music sucks.
Yeah.
So, like congratulations, you were singing about diarrhea. Um, but and grandma was offended. Like but I don't know. Grandma's also dead, so like, now what?
Mm.
Like now you got to live with that stupid record that you made. So I
Oh,
don't know. But yeah, you're right. You see that there's still love for Uriah Heep, and it's 50 plus years old. What's the Uriah Heep album that has like the mirror cover? Because Uriah Heep too, like as being a band that you might like love and get into, Adam. Like they've been like kind of like a lot of classic bands where they like released like maybe not this for Uriah Heep, but they redid like the deluxe edition where it like almost has like surround sound, like Black Sabbath has like a surround sound mix. So like if you get the deluxe edition, that's like 3 discs. You get like the rare cuts of studio material on disc 2, but then disc 3 is the DVD 5.1 surround sound mix of Mob Rules.
mm,
Like Uriah Heep might have that, but they do have like the Mirror album, where like it's printed with like a a, a foil, so like it does like reflect. So it's kind of like
mm.
you can get cool editions. Um, so anything. Don't look at yourself.
Okay,
See there, that's
that's
what
the one.
it's called. Yeah. Metal Neanderthal says that's the best, and I don't think he's alone in that opinion. I think most people do. I kind of love that one. Which one has the wizard? Is that on there? I don't think it is. I don't see. I know like Uriah Heep moderately, but not to like remember their album titles and stuff. But yeah, if you like, cause I forgot that Adam that you liked some power metal stuff because a lot of we don't I don't bring it up as much, but I kind of like like so like Demons and Wizards, so like that's like going Iced Earth and Blind Guardian era. Granted, that's also probably where the Uriah Heep, because Demons and Wizards is a band, but it's also it's named after a Uriah Heep album. So like Blind, and that has Hansi Kirsch from Blind Guardian and John Schaefer from Iced Earth. So like two bands that I didn't really ever think. I never really thought Iced Earth fit the power metal description, at least to the likes of like Halloween or Blind Guardian, like to that regard. Maybe when Tim Ripper Owens became a part of the band, um, I don't know. That's at least my take. Another good band, UFO and Wishbone Ash. Do you know anything about those two bands? Because yeah, that's kind of like, well, things haven't changed. Having a more of a elaborated power metal conversation that I haven't had since I was like rather young. Um, Now that I think about it, so like yeah, the opinions haven't really changed when it comes to then bringing in kind of your more rock or whatever like predated bands that kind of influence that as
Mm.
Uriah Heep. So like to hear Fraser bring up that like oh fuck yeah Wishbone Ash and UFO too are great alongside Uriah Heep like that's usually always was that's how I know those bands as well. Because yeah, so do you know UFO and Wishbone Ash?
No, and especially if they're either predecessors or contemporaries. Like I haven't even listened to Uriah Heep, so I
Hmm,
wouldn't know their peers or their predecessors. So
that's interesting because I guess that might be too like where like you get into certain things. Um because all those are classic and well my frame of mind would be almost like yeah, those are classic and like it's kind of hard to dodge, but then again like it's older, the oldest, I mean everything's getting older, right? So it's the oldest that if it's been an influence for this long and it is classic, then maybe there's a point where yeah, it starts to trail down for like, as you get into say something like power metal, maybe your journey is a little bit different that like, the first Blind Guardian album is, nearly 40 years old. So like, you know, early 2000s
oh,
Guardian, and then like Uriah Heep. Uriah Heep wouldn't have been as old as it is now, so it's easier maybe to lose track of the stuff that had its influence in the places that you meet music different throughout other people's journeys. I guess is what I'm getting at with that. Jacob says, "What about the first three Michael Schenker group albums, or Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush?" Um, Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush are is it Mahogany, comma, and then Rush or Mahogany Rush? Because obviously Rush is a band. But yeah, we're going some classic rock like route in a way. Because now I'm curious then, Adam. Like, yeah, if you don't know like Uriah Heep, like I would just assume you would know like Rush or who might. I honestly I would have assumed you did hear UFO, not in a death metal started and ended with Possessed in 1985 sort of elitist way, just in a learning who a human being is. I would have assumed, and it didn't meet my assumptions. So I'm assuming, yeah, you would have known these other, or you would know, some of this other stuff. So where are you at with some Michael Schenker? Because I would think that would be, yeah, kind of a assume like you know who it is.
so I don't really want to spoil it too much because it kind of delves in a little bit with my next few videos, maybe even today's video because I forgot the order. But my sort of non-metal guilty pleasures. So I think my trajectory of music was a little bit different, and I do kind of go through it in those videos, which I think is why it's kind of important. I haven't heard of most of these bands being thrown out. I mean, I do know Rush. I know a couple of songs because it's one of those bands that like everyone knows, and it's sort of like luckily enough. And I've gone on a rant about this, so I'll try to keep it limited. But I feel bad for people who were habitually born with the internet because I feel like their frame of reference doesn't necessarily go back, and it could be wrong, to things in the past. So, like for example, you and I growing up with watching The Simpsons or Futurama, the people who created those shows wrote those in the 90s and early 2000s. They were alive in the 70s. So their frame of
Yeah.
reference were things like Star Wars and Back to the Future and other things from 70s and 80s. So when you watch Futurama, even if it's written in 2003, it's referencing things from the author's perspective from the 70s and 80s. So, for example, in an episode they did, Futurama, where Fry's in a world where everything is video game related. He's going back to a day where he's drinking some orange soda and he's playing an Atari game. I think it was Space Invaders. He's listening to Rush. So even if I had never heard of them before, that would have introduced me to them. And
Right.
then, other references and other shows and stuff. So I'm actually, again, I don't want to give too much away, but like my parents are a bit older than I think most people's parents for my age.
Mm.
So their frame of reference for their music was a lot of 60s and 70s, and not necessarily the stuff that is appearing on screen. It was like, I mean, their favorite bands like, like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, the Hollies, a lot of early British Invasion stuff. Um, Bands I liked were like Question Mark and the Mysterians, and even going back as far as Del Shannon. and stuff like that. So like I'm not as familiar with the I guess the hard rock that eventually led into the heavy metals, and I've even mentioned too, a lot of the glam and the hair metal of like the late '70s, early '80s, other than Twisted Sister and um, Quiet Riot. I don't like most of that stuff either. So even like your whatever you want to call it, whatever genre you want to call it, your Def Leppards, your Led Zeppelins, your Poisons, and Rat and Skid Row and stuff like that. I've mentioned a few times. Like anything adjacent to that, even I was never a big fan. It was more like the pop rock rather than the harder rock of that era. So
Yeah, exactly. W Necron says most younger people think old stuff is inferior. Um, and Jacob is bringing up the rods. So fuck, man, if you're not writing, taking down notes of shit you could listen to and might like, there you go. You got come back to this video and go through the comments of the later half, because there's some good solid stuff. And I guess that goes to anybody that's listening too. You know, who the hell are the rods? Well, thanks Jacob for bringing them up. Um, and I always, Jacob, since you brought up the rods, I always, is that not which band was like, oh, it has Dio's cousin or brother or something? Is it not the rods? Because that was, the fun fact of that. And funner fact, I think it should be, maybe not. It might not be actually though. I think there's a rare audio only good sounding live recording that you've never heard of the rods 1982, let's say New Hampshire, let's say, we're saying we don't know for sure and I don't even don't know for sure if it's on the Reaper Metal YouTube, which I was about to say that it definitely was, but I think I'm pretty confident it is. So start your journey there, um and then you'll get the record like fuck, the live version was way better. Sometimes for those bands it is. Like you mentioned Twisted Sister, and some of their live shit, like it's just like if you got to hear it like that, it'd probably be way cooler. Cause I don't know. I always thought of them. Well, you could take their name in two different ways. And if you take it from the Justin, my brother's standpoint of like, like I once said that like their name's dumb. And he's like, "What do you mean?" Like, I think of it as like a fucked up nun, Twisted Sisters. Like, oh, I took it as men dressed in uniforms or in uniforms, men dressed as women, like, and they're a twisted like sister in that perspective, which is probably more likely. Um, but it reminded me of like, there's I guess a few ways to look at this title. So there's definitely a few ways to listen to their classic records because then their live performances, which there's plenty of that are pretty good quality or a really good quality really, then like capture more of their attitude that was better of like an 80s club scene as they were kind of which is almost like a detail that you need for a band dressed as women, because if you're just listening to it, it obviously loses that visual outside the album cover or looking at a photo of the band. That if you're at a show where they shine, that I'm proposing that they shined the best at, well, some of that energy then was in the air in that live performance, to make it so, which kind of is a lost thing in and of itself. If we're going to keep going on like generations of music and the influence that you would have and how that changes, um, outside of Walmart censoring your cover, clearly then like having the ability, which is beautiful, I've used it to my favor to work on projects, but like the internet allows you to make like a band that you don't have to like rehearse with and write and with so that changes you know the live energy I guess that you could get in a record recording performance, that is kind of a lost art from the Twisted Sister live club performance, as opposed to a dork in his room on a computer recording guitar and then sending it to a guy 100, maybe 200. I'm not sure how far Cincinnati is from Cleveland because I'm trying to tell my personal story. To then get the drummer on the other the guy in Cleveland played guitar and sent it down to a drummer in Cincinnati through the internet, and it turned out fine and it was cool. Way different way to record though than being in the same exact room. Way different than being in the same exact room that's a studio, and that's a better energy as opposed to overdub, which is then a different energy than a live band being live in front of a crowd of whatever
Mhm.
size, in front of a crowd dressed as women and whatever size. Like all these dynamics changes kind of how, yeah, some of the stuff that you can't really describe that makes something like a better performance, other than to simplify it and say like, the energy, the charisma, the chemistry,
Yeah.
as every like behind the scenes of like movie shit where they're like, so what do you think about the director? Oh, he's just got great chemistry. It's like, get your fucking science fair out of my description. Like, tell it how it is. He sucks and my stomach aches and I've been waiting in this trailer to perform my roles. All right, I don't know why we're talking about movies. Okay, back to some comments. And then we're gonna make sure we got all Adam's bullet points. Um, and unless the super chat saves the day, we're gonna start wrapping up our nearly hour and a half. Um, the fuck is that? All right, hold on a second. I lost my place. Under the Blade rules. That's Twisted Sister album. If you didn't know, hey, there's two different mixes of that too. So even they knew. They even agreed with me. Twisted Sisters, first album, Under the Blade. So that rant that may have made no sense, like it has backing to it. Frazier, do I listen to Under the Blade? Or that's for Fraser. Frazier, you're getting all the chat. So you get to your
Yeah,
chat.
he's spamming the chat.
No one's talking about Necrophore right now, Frazier.
Yeah, I already mentioned him once early on. Well, I think he definitely was in the chat because he was in the chat before I was in the video. So
I never really cared about. I didn't hear. I never really heard what was so exciting about that band. Oh, but there is.
I'll be honest.
There is a rare a live performance on the Reaper Metal channel. This fucking poser doesn't even like it, but he's got VHS tapes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't even listened to it yet because it's one of those things where, oh, it's the biggest traded demo of the '80s. I'm like, cool. I was born in 1990, so unless you're going to hook me up with a copy,
Must have missed that one.
I
Yeah.
wasn't there for it. So,
Kind of,
which is
right?
cool.
It's like, oh my god,
I
there
want to
was
listen to it.
I like that's like the of like
Uh-oh.
I had to make sure my charger was working. I guess it goes black when I do that. But that is like the equivalent back, like I was saying earlier, like of like, oh man, we were at the Waltz and then they played Exodus and it was great. Like, and then a country, you know, whatever bluegrass dance occurred, like you're a fucking poser for liking this blood incantation. It's just like I wasn't born in 1960. Like the waltz was over with. like, like I'm glad that you heard Exodus at a country fair waltz dance that I guess I'm describing that probably never happened because Exodus would have not have been around the time waltzes were happening. Does anybody remember when the waltz was not a popular dance? Because once it was, and that's entirely my point. Like, eventually, like people could see. I'm using absurd references to kind of point out the guy in the '80s because, like, it might not be as obvious because somehow there's like maybe some cool nostalgic. At least that's why he's like being belittling of like, it's death metal only from the demo of 1985, and I never figured that you were younger, so I have to somehow be, the guy that's winning this conversation of coolness that, I'm using really old references because, if you brought up like a 1920s reference and like, dude, it's the sickest fucking sound in 1920s doo-wop music ever or whatever, you would be like, that's really old. So 1985 is 40 years ago, so it's getting pretty old. So oh, elitist man, that isn't really even here in the comments, at least. Um,
Yeah, and I'm not even saying it's bad. I'm saying I never heard it because it's not available to me. But once it becomes available, I probably will like it.
I didn't
I
need
just
all that
haven't been
rant,
able
man.
to hear it.
It was good or bad. It was simple. Well, I'm saying it's bad then. Fuck. All right, and I'm redeeming
Yeah.
myself. I'm in a negative mood, so let's talk about what we do like. No, we did. It was just that it was that damn Iced Earth record, man. It really got me going. Um, okay, cool. So yeah, we're Necrovore is really the only thing in the comments. So let's go back to your bullet points if you've still got them. Did we check all the bullet points of topics you had prepared for?
I did have some thoughts, and I wanted to get your opinion as someone who actually has worked on a label yourself, been in a band, still is in a band, been in other bands. I was curious what you could glean light on for someone like myself. So, starting a new label, or if anyone else is interested in starting a label or something adjacent to it, what are the rates nowadays of, like, let's say a CD, a tape, an LP? Because I mentioned this artist here, this YouTuber, and he did a 10-year live anniversary video where he did live chat just like this. And someone he mentioned, hey, Adam and I are working on doing a CD, and someone in the comments said something that I remember you brought up in an old Hellcast and turned it into a whole rant, and I thought it was really good. And the guy goes, "Hey, it'd be really cool if you guys did LPs." And it's like, well, people who don't know
Oh,
have no idea what goes into putting out an LP, not just from the money perspective, but that is a huge part of it. And then just having to have I think you told a story about having 300, LPs in boxes, and the guy parks his truck in the middle of the road. So you're running boxes of LPs across the street trying not to get hit by cars. So besides the cost of putting out an LP, there's so much that goes into it.
well, and that's Justin's story. Like,
Okay.
because if you're talking about so the LPs in the road, like that's cutting corners to save money on shipping and stuff, and not like cutting corners in a bad way. I don't. It sounds like a derogatory comment in a way, but it's I don't mean it like that. I mean like that's kind of what his story's saying. So that's not gonna be true to everybody. Like getting a record shipped, like because it there's a possibility, like, it doesn't have to arrive on a semi. And I'm pretty sure the semi driver that day, when he saw like he's showing up to a residential house, probably would have called his boss, like, you fucked something up. I don't go to houses. Like, semis don't really go to houses. So records don't always get shipped by a semi, and they can very well arrive 13 boxes if it must be that big of a shipment, one by one to your door via UPS, because Reaper's story is very much that. So all the records that are produced and manufactured in Europe do have to somehow arrive to Ohio. And it wasn't by a semi truck. So, um, so there's that. I guess be wary of people's stories too, to not color what you're really trying to ask. And I'm elaborating on that aspect because like something like a record label, like niche type of, you're starting a business essentially. And that's kind of what I mean by that's his story and pointing that out. Because like if you don't see it as like you're building a business, that's kind of a different conversation when you start to lean into the potential niche ways of doing certain types of businesses. Like you could do a niche burger stand and not follow the ways of the CEO of McDonald's telling you how to open up a burger stand. That's a
Or a
different
banana
story
stand.
than like, a Justin telling you a record label, a Reaper telling you a record label, than Warner Brothers would have, who also has started a record label. So like at the end of the day, then if you simplify it, like you're starting a business. And so getting products made, whether it's a record or not, and having them shipped to your door via semi is kind of your unique personal story. Because then figure out a better way to not have it sent by a semi next time, because that seems like a bad idea. And you probably overpaid. So that is a point though. Like, do things that save you money then, so you can get your feet off the ground, because like you're gonna have to like forward cash to like especially get the word out about records that you're putting out in the format. Luckily we have social media and stuff that at least is still at some point reachable for free, but obviously we've seen how that's panning out, where like, Facebook is more so ad ridden and incentivized, that like you can't exactly post your cat photo and grandma's going to see it now, because grandma's more likely going to see ads that other people are paying for to serve her up. So like there's things that you could obviously do to get the word out, and that's probably mostly why you're here right now, right? Talking about unbaptized records and doing daily videos. I don't know. I think I was a part of a conversation one time that had that as a bullet point. So nonetheless, uh, where am I going with this? Other than I'm
Yeah,
gonna
so
look.
my question was about just like starting labels, or even for just for letting people, even who want to start a label or not, know, like from your perspective, 500 CDs. That seemed to me like having a manufacturer like this right here, Faith Extractor CD. By the way, if you want a copy, I have some, and I'm also planning on doing a giveaway. But this right here, you and Tommy put this out together. You got Redefining Darkness right there, if you could see it. Awesome. Tommy's label. Then you got Reaper's old label here. So this CD right there, how much would 500 of those cost to put out on CD nowadays? If you know, let's say 100 tapes, or if you were going to do a 7 inch, just so like people get an idea of like when they're paying $25 for an LP, how much do you think that the person putting that out probably had to pay for it? And maybe they're only making a 50-cent margin profit, or is it like, oh, that's ridiculous? No, it's like $10 for an LP, and it's actually
Right.
double margin or something.
It's slightly tough to say what it is now because the conversion probably went up to measures I'm not entirely sure of because uh the scam shit from 2020 fucked up postage, which would be the one of the biggest price increases. So I'm not entirely sure how to like even guess at what postage would be for 500 LPs come from Europe. Otherwise, 300 LPs from 2019 would have cost you probably $1,300 to your door. 300 CDs to your door, probably about 500.
And
So
it's
for
something
that,
like tapes for those who are crazy enough to venture into that world. 100 tapes,
those
I think you maybe.
220 to your door,
Oh, okay.
and
For
you'll
some
have
reason, I thought it was more like 600 for 100 tapes.
I hope not, but it could be what things are. I don't think it's that bad. Um, and if that's the case, then that's kind of at least where my rant was going. You can start to be creative. So, getting a tape manufacturer, let's say that in the United States, like you're pretty much going to be not so much in a Walmart took it over, but like it's an old school technology, a cassette tape that like National Audio Company in Missouri kind of overtook that business. Like you have to use them because like they make the actual tape. That if you make tapes like this place in Cleveland, you can't buy tape from a specific supplier because they no longer have it. They ran out when they stopped making it in 1979 or whenever the hell it was, because the National Audio Company like makes the tape that everybody else now uses. So if and I didn't get a pulse on the tape producers in Europe, but I would assume that they might be under the same problem and also use then the same supplier. Um, but if I'm wrong about all that, then you could find cheaper options. So A to Z in Cleveland, let's say, who I could just drive up to. So maybe that saved me money then. That's why I drove there because like, oh, it's down the street. Like I don't have to pay for 100 CDs to be shipped or cassettes. Like that saves me $50. And when it's 100 cassettes, that's 50 cents a fucking disc. So that really. Starts to weigh in. So being creative in that way. Um, Look to see what you can do. And so that would be one of my answers too. Like look to see what you can do like drive to save yourself a buck. Um, Maybe there's people you can join forces with, a la the redefining thing that you utilize an example. Because especially you bring up Faith Extractor, say like I was already like, fuck this, I don't feel like putting out releases, and that was before the shit got hit the fan in the world. You know, post 2019. So having that like person then that like you could join forces with. So in this case for me redefining like that became like something that got me in back in line because then it's like, oh, like if there's a team essentially, now I feel like certain problems can be resolved, as is what got me to like stop in the first place. So like I think it, yeah,
Hmm.
having a team is important then. It's not necessary all the time, but it can certainly, help you with workforce. Maybe you can put your pennies together, like, and so it can help afford stuff. Um, but then also to continue to be driven by your passion, because you will get punched in the face monetarily and workload wise. Like, you'll have to do a lot of stuff that maybe doesn't pan out. Um, so you're gonna have to like keep going back to your why at the end of the day to kind of keep you motivated when you're, getting blown in a bad way. uh, as you're going through the process. So did I do better on that
All
one?
right. Yeah, I'm what's that?
Did I do better on that than the semi rant?
Yes. See me struggling here. I just wanted to say, because you had mentioned at one point about how zines are being kind of thrown out of the scene. Not a lot of people anymore, but there is one guy, at least, well, many people I know, but one person I know still doing zines, and that is Paul, Soul Grinder Zine, right there.
He's been doing that
So
for a
I
long
just,
time.
yeah, just plugging away different things I might as well throw out there. But it's cool. He just sent me a pack of 2 CDs I picked up for $5 each. But Soul Grinder Z, and I also got one of his comps recently. And in fact, the comp I got in the mail was from a band called The Sentients from Pennsylvania. They were on the same comp that a band Cruel Bomb was on,
Oh
and
yeah,
that was Soul Grinder Zine's comp that I first heard on this channel on Hellcast, and I didn't get
yeah.
that until years and years later because the band Descentients was doing T-shirts for the new album, and I bought one of them, and they ran out of patches just before they got to my mailer. So they said, "Hey, we're gonna hook this guy up. He's cool. We're gonna send him a copy of some extra stuff, an extra T-shirt." And one of the things I got was that Soul Grinder Zine comp that had their band on it and Cruel Bomb, which I first heard on your Hellcast podcast. So kind of funny how that comes full circle. I just got that in the mail a few weeks ago, and I had heard it on the I think Death to Core episode, which was like 2019 or something. So
Oh.
6 years later, I'm finally able to listen to some of those bands that you and your brother played on that. So it's kind of funny how all that comes full circle.
Yeah, and that's cool that you're keeping in touch with Paul then Soul Grinder Zine, because when you mention another Pennsylvania band, that's where he's from, so he's clearly like driven by passion then, because I want to say like he's definitely past the 20-year mark doing Soul Grinder Zine. Um, and actually back to that record, like starting a fresh record label thing, because Metal Neanderthal said, basically 'cause people were chatting about like prices of like buying shit. So Metal Neanderthal said, physical media is getting out of control. A lot of brand new CDs, including shipping, are near $20 or more now. And that's not just like metal either. Um, and so what I would say then, and bringing that up in regards to like a starting of a new label, because it is also actually part of like one of my kind of my like departure from putting out records regularly, is like, as like, again, it's sexy to be like, I love metal and I'm fucking doing it for the passion, and it'll never die. Like, that's like, right, that's fine, that's great, and you're gonna need that. But you also don't want to be stupid, like, because again, if you simplify it, you take the niche out of it. You're doing a business making products, and the world is not being very kind on product producers, especially when it's coming from outside the country. So, like, that passion might lead you in a corner of getting fucked, paying unnecessary taxes or expenses when perhaps you can get it done cheaper somewhere else, and that's going to require research. However, it's also maybe not even going to be as simple as that. Like, it might be the passionate people that, fuck yeah, I don't give a shit, digital, screw it, I'm not listening on YouTube. Right. But when physical media becomes so expensive, you're gonna have no choice than to like, I can't fucking eat. Like, there's no eggs at the store that are $20. Like, I can't buy a $40 CD, although I want to, of my favorite band, and I can't cook the eggs that I bought for $20 without some sort of entertainment. So I guess I'm gonna be listening to the new Crucify Mortals on YouTube. for free because I
Mm.
can't afford a $40 LP. Like it's almost $40 for an LP to your door, and in some places it is $40 because then you live abroad and you have to pay the ridiculous shipping. So like the state of the world can force that out of you, even though like you are running a niche business and you understand it and you know that there's an audience, so you made a good decision in that regard. But you could be making a bad decision at the same time because you didn't realize that you have an audience, but they can't afford to buy the product that they do even want because the state of the world sucks ass. Like you got to know certain shit like that. So that's kind of more where I mean too. You know, kind of way business. You know, or of like stripping out and seeing. You know that you are running a business and you're gonna have to be business minded.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Well,
Oh, sorry, I was reading comments. Go ahead.
oh, nothing. No, I see we have Francisco in the comment section. So, but he's leaving because Fraser's here. So,
Oh, why? Oh, is France? Did they got a tiff?
huh? No, he says he's here, but he might leave because Fraser's in the comments. So he doesn't want to have to deal with that. He deals with that enough on his own channel.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, Francisco jamming out all badass. He's
Yeah,
in
I
the
know that,
comments,
but
and it,
I thought
yeah.
they're not bros.
No, I think they are. I think it's just you can only deal with Fraser Dawson for so long. I mean, I spent 2 hours here, and I think we're tired of him already.
Well, I can't do. I'm sorry, but the sentence long screen name always throws me for a loop. That is like, oh yeah, that is Fraser. I
Yeah.
keep having to relive. No, I don't know. Hey, Fraser, I'm not ragging on you. It's these other guys.
No,
I just
I know.
saying.
I'm just kidding too. I mean, Fraser's awesome. He sends me little voicemails through Instagram, and so I'm listening to it. I'm like, well, it's definitely more coherent than some of his text to speech sentences. So, but I get it, man. I understand.
No, you don't. Fraser, they're blowing smoke up your ass. This is how they really feel about you. I'm the only one that was giving it to you straight. And I just suggest you change the sentence. Look, sentence names weren't good for bands, and they're not good for
Yeah,
stream names.
exactly. Well, if I didn't like Dawson, I wouldn't have sent him a whole stack of CDs. So, putting my
Oh.
money where my mouth is.
Literally, yeah.
Which,
Whoa,
speaking of,
whoa, hold on a second. Groundbreaking news. Fraser sucks at spelling. Did anybody ever notice?
that's funny.
um, Where are we at on the bullet point? Why am I screaming? Is my audio has been fine for the past hour. Where are we at on the bullet points?
I just had one more bullet point left, and then one last thing to talk about, and then a question for the audience. Now that we have almost 20 people, so I figured that last bullet point's also kind of a question, but I wanted to see what Reapdog thinks of getting music signed by artists because I have a very interesting take on it. I've definitely changed my tune over the years. At first, I didn't necessarily care because I didn't go to too many shows, so I didn't really buy a lot of physical media and then care to have it signed. But now I'm the total opposite. I think if you do art, even if you are a small band, local band, whatever it is, or you're the biggest band in the world, to me, if you do art and I appreciate the art, I would like you to sign the art. Some people don't care for that. They think local bands, they have to make it before it matters whether or not they sign an LP or CD, and some
Mm,
people don't think it's worth it at all. I just think that if I enjoy your art, I think it's cool to have you sign whatever you did for me. So I do that for local bands, bigger bands, um, really whomever, even people on labels. I've approached people on a label to say, hey, sign this flyer that you're doing for your show. So I think that's cool no matter what. I'm a fan of that. And I even go as far as to have people who I've never met sign my things. So Francisco, if he's still in the comments, will know because I bugged him about his Eat the Decay LP because I'm not going to make it down to Texas, sorry guys, to see them and Hexea and other bands. But if he had any copies, I was going to say, hey, bring one with you, have the band sign it and send it to me. I've done that with bands like Hell Ripper, who I know is on this on your label. I've asked James a couple times to sign stuff for me because I bought it directly from him, which he has. People like the band Cardosis, Descentients. I mentioned them before. I've had them sign it, and they're only in Pennsylvania. So sometimes I just assume I may never see the artist because they're local. Like let's say the Ohio bands that are local, like Carnegie.
mm.
Brian Bergeron and the rest of them signed one of their LPs for me because I assume unless I go out to Ohio regularly, I'm probably never going to see them. So I thought it would be fine that since I enjoy their art, even though I wasn't there to get it signed and I can't prove 100% they did it, I like that aspect of it. I'd rather have it signed in person, but I'm curious to see what you and other people think about having stuff signed, if that's an important aspect to your music collection or it doesn't really matter to you.
As far as importance, I definitely appreciate signing my art for other people more than I do, out for stuff that I buy. Um, so think, I definitely agree that, well, and because most people have the perspective then that like the size matters more so. So if, like you said, like, oh, it's a local band, so most people just kind of like, why would I care and get it signed? Like it has to be, some giant star or something to then care. Where I think it's the opposite, because the giant star, like, he made it, so he got paid to do the art. So like he might care to sign your thing and might be flattered by it, but in most cases he's charging you money to do it, and he's showing up at a convention and selling the experience. Where the local band from Soul Grinder Zine is going to be, like I said, feeling the gratitude of like somebody approaching them and like, hey, this means something to me to even have signed. Appreciate your art, blah blah blah. Like, so he's gonna feel the butterflies or the whatever the descriptions of good signing. You're gonna feel good to have it signed. So therein lies the point, the nostalgic of it, where then the big guy, like, he's kind of the Walmart product, like, so so yeah, it lost a little bit of importance, especially when he charges you to wait in a line to then shake his hand for a brief moment, get a half-ass photo, the meet and greet pass for a concert, you know what I mean? So like I would never like, oh dude, funny story, I don't think I ever told it. So when Megadeth went on tour just this last summer, um, I know the drummer Dirk from Into the Darkness, but from the producer Tommy from Redefining Darkness. He knows Tommy knows everybody. So it's a great to have it's great to have a friend that knows a lot of people, because then when like Megadeth comes to town and he's like, hey, saying like, hey, like, I'll ask Dirk to put you on the list for you. Like, yeah, I'll go to Megadeth if it's free. Because then I got into Megadeth for free, and and like, so I wasn't with the producer and everybody else that was on the producer's list of like getting into Megadeth for free. Like I had to go sit in the nosebleeds, because otherwise they had like cooler seats. Um, and so the point being is like I was removed from like the crowd of people that I know that would have been at Megadeth by my ticket standing. So at the end of the show, when it's like, hey Reap, we're all gonna be hanging out with Dirk backstage. Go to the left door on the stage, on level A or whatever. And it's like, all right, I think I'm there. So I'm standing in this line then, and we're waiting in there, and I'm like, I don't see any Tommy or anybody I recognize. Then we're walking down a corridor, going up this and that, down a hallway. It's Spinal Tap, right? And all of a sudden, we're all in this room, and then we sit down. It's like, I don't see the producer or Dirk or anybody. And then this guy comes out, and he's like, all right, Dave will be down here to do the photo session. You're allowed to get one thing signed. I'm like, I'm definitely in the wrong room, because these people
Mm,
paid to meet Dave Mustaine, and I'm about to meet him for free. Because then I didn't have a record or anything. I had a ticket stub and like a VIP. Well, it's right here. Let me show you. Because then I'm sure enough, yeah, like I was in the VIP pass room to meet Dave Mustaine by accident. Because I got my picture with Dave Mustaine, and then the guy taking the picture is like, "All right, now I'm taking the picture. You're not, no, none of your phones. Like, I'm not using your phone. You use mine, but like, just use your ticket stub and log into the website to access your photo." And just like, what if you got in here for free by accident? How the fuck am I gonna get my photo with Dave Mustaine? So I don't know how I'm gonna get my photo with Dave Mustaine. Otherwise, I got, yeah. Well, that's the thing that came in, but I had him sign. No, he didn't sign that. That was for the after show. Where the hell's the ticket stub? He signed my ticket stub. Um, And so that's kind of a part. That's kind of the way I'm answering your question though too. Like I could be like, this arrogant sounding prick to be like, without this story to accompany it. So hopefully it makes me not sound like an arrogant prick to otherwise saying like autographs most of the time, like if I can get in there for free or whatever, like, the Dave Mustaines of the world, I'll do it that way. I'm not going to pay whatever it is extra, nor to get into the show in the first place. Because yeah, I definitely would value signing Metal Neanderthal said that I signed his Crucified Mortals CDs, which I'll do for anybody and have done for people that ask for it when they're buying it. Now available, still available on Reaper Metal Bandcamp, by the way, not at Walmart. They will not email me to have them sign their CD, amongst many other problems. What are you talking about? Go back 115 minutes. You'll hear that rant then. Because then otherwise, yeah, I think like it's more of a direct thing. So the small guy definitely more so than the giant Dave Mustaines that are charging you extra. I probably could have just said that, but it was a funny story. I think I don't. Nobody was laughing, so maybe it wasn't even funny.
Yeah, and I definitely will differentiate. I don't think I've ever paid for anyone's signature. I think the closest was I use them as an example. I mentioned earlier I did get to see Exhumed with the meet and greet, but it was a little different because even though you paid extra, it was totally worth it because, like I said before too, those guys were super cool, and you got like an hour and a half with them. You could tell they're super down to earth dudes. I brought everything to get signed too, so I had Matt Harvey sign my Pounder 7 inch, and I don't think I should didn't end up bringing in my Ghoul stuff. I would have had Ross sign my Ghoul 7 inch, but the band were just hanging out for like an hour. So that's the only time I do something like that. But normally, I'm not going to pay for like a signing, especially meet and greet maybe, but not a lot, and only if it's like my absolute favorite band. So, but I
What was
saw
the
someone, I think Jacob Brockman, say Kernigia rules, Hellripper and Kernigia, and I said they're both great. And I was thinking, yes, I like Kernigia so much, I accidentally bought the wrong album. I mentioned that in a video. I bought the black metal band. So
medical pathologist said exhumed meet and greet? Wow. There was did he did two things? I felt like maybe two things got combined there. Did you say that there was a exhumed meet and greet, or like was that a combination of the Megadeth story and people that charge for it? I didn't want exhumed to come off
no,
as people that charge for meet and greets if they don't.
no, there was a meet and greet they charged for, but it was worth
Okay.
it because it was like an hour and a half, and it was like It was just they were like, well, we're going to be doing nothing anyways. It wasn't like, hey, you get a picture with Matt like this and one question. It was like you're literally hanging out with the band for an hour and a half, and they charged a little bit, but it was worth it. I mean, like that's a very unique example where again they charged, but it was like I'd gladly pay it. It wasn't like again the $150 for a quick little thumbs up picture or something.
I mean, in my opinion, like how somebody spends their money is their own business, and like if you feel like as long as you got value out of it, like that's all that matters. Um, but I
Yeah,
do think that, well, much like the record label remarks and all that stuff, like you just gotta be careful, like because you like Exhumes, yeah, gonna give you very likely because they're more near and dear, so like they're gonna give you a good hour meet and greet, but that's where you gotta be wary because like you know, Dave Mustaine might not, and he could be so far in. We'll stop using Dave for an example, but like something like Giant that does meet and greets, like they might be so embedded in the corporate aspect of like this is the giant world. It's a gratuitous act, and they somehow flipped the gratitude, the appreciation as an artist into another way of like the fan paying them for something else. I get it to a degree too, because like if you just performed a concert exhumed and then now offering to people like, hey, like we're still gonna be here, I could either get on the road and go to the next town, brush my teeth, take a dump, like, but I'm choosing to hang out with you for an hour. And so your sale to that VIP tent guarantees that happening. So that's why we're charging money, but I promise it's gonna be a good hour. Like, all right, that's a different like action as opposed to like every big band is always going to have like the nosebleed seats, the middle section seats, the rager up front one, because then the rager up front, which is as close as you can get, well then you can get closer with the meet and greet, the stroke Dave off after the show pass in the other room, have an orange with Dave and the other, like there's like all these different, and what's behind door number 2 that you can do with Dave Mustaine. So that's a little bit, becoming a product at that point of, gratitude kind, that's when it starts to get ugly. Not so much when it's a hangout with exhumed. But if you want to have an orange with an exhumed and they're charging you $200, never mind what Reeps thinks. Like if Adam's loving that orange with Matt Harvey, like good, like great. Like I care as much as the guy that like insists that death metal started and stopped with possessed demo. This figurative character, man, like we're really pounding. Well, I don't know about we. I'm really pounding some his persona into salt. Um, Reading comments. Never more rules. Oh wow, the usual suspects are here. Yeah, Frasier. Tube Tomb Screamer. That's fun. Like Tube Screamer instead Tomb Screamer. Maybe. I don't know. Was that the origins of your name? Paying money to see someone goes against everything the metal was about back in the day. Right. So Soda. I don't think you were here 120 minutes ago, Tomb Screamer. So Soda is selling your product on Walmart's website. Um, and this is the world that we live in. So the only way I can kind of say some of the modern shit that's all right. Well, hold on a second, because like the Dave Mustaines of the world, the people, the the I made it like artists that are charging you top dollar for the meet and greets may have said this, could say this if they haven't, but they could like say how like the world of like being an artist has changed. Like we have to find ways to be supported. So that might be one of the reasons why they do the hangout. The orange juice drinking, the whatever have yous that are like an add-on to the ticket price that you as an
Hmm.
individual can or cannot choose to do. So you can't really always like put it on them. Um, but like they could argue like that, the plane has changed. So do you want no music or do you want some music? Because like, especially to the Walmart point, like Walmart will say Black Hearts, Dawn of the Black Hearts with Dead's head blown off as a cover. Absolutely not. Not on our shelves, Mayhem. Fuck you. Change the cover. Where if Mayhem charged you a meet and greet to go pick up some of Dead's splattered skull after they took the photo because they did it independently and Adam paid to do it, like now it made them become an independent artist and not have to conform to Walmart calling the shots. So there's kind of a fine argument that you could have when things change as they have.
Hmm. And I think, to my point, I guess to defend Exhumed, well, first of all, it was a long time, and they were also the headliner, so they came for sound check, and then they had time to kill. And the only reason I think they charged was mostly just because of the exclusionary principle. I think it's the right term. They just, if they sell 200 tickets, they probably can't afford to have 200 people do a meet and greet. Because they did a riff guessing thing where Matt played riffs from 80s music, 90s music, 2000s, and whoever guessed it right got a shirt. Then they had some free swag to hand out. So that was the other thing too. You got like a bag, you got exclusive poster, a bunch of other stuff. So it wasn't just like, I think it was more so just to get the fans, the super fans, to be in that group of like 20 people. Because if they had a whole room of 200 people that all bought the $20 ticket, then they wouldn't necessarily be able to have a good experience. So maybe that's why they charge more. I think, to me at least, that made sense. I'm giving the one example I know of a band charging a little more to do a meet and greet and not just get that signature. And again, spending over an hour with the band and stuff. But
Dude, let's
that's
let's
me too. They're my second favorite band. So
yeah, well, I'm gonna defend it even more with like, because this is, I got to be honest, and that's my point entirely. Like the honest one that that is just left unsaid because money talks and bullshit walks. So the walk in this aspect is the people that aren't gonna pay because they're like from a standpoint of like being an artist, and yes, you love and you appreciate your fans, like there is a sad reality that some people are just absolutely unbearable to be around for an hour. So the way to like at least offer the service of hangout is to charge. That way they will weed themselves out, because even if they are unbearable to be out, like, well, I promised an hour. Cause see ya. Cause I'm just saying, it sucks to be it sucks to admit it, but like, especially from the art standpoint, but like, we are all human beings. So you're full of shit if every fan if you're gonna put in this fairy tale kindergarten wimpy like aspect of like, they're my fans, so everybody's just all equal. I would love to spend an hour with everybody. Bullshit.
Yeah.
There's definitely gonna be people you'd rather be hanging around, and it's kind of hard to tell a fan, especially that like, dude, I don't want to hang out with you. Sorry.
Yeah, and then stuff like limitations too. Like Chris Barnes is doing a tour with 6 Feet Under for, well, I know why, but who knows why you would go see that necessarily. But
Passion. Passion.
yeah, and he's charging you for a meet and greet, and he's saying you can only sign 3 things. Well, Matt Harvey and Ross Sewage and Mike Hamilton and Sebastian, they're going to sign anything you throw at them, even if it's, a magazine from 1992 and they're not even on it. It's, Men's Health magazine. They'll probably sign it for you just because they like you. They're not charging you for the signatures. They're charging you to spend some time with them, before the show. And again, if you don't like it, then you don't pay for it. So I think that's the difference between a Chris Barnes who is charging you to sign 3 things and no more, which is kind of ridiculous. Why limit it? I don't know. Maybe it's just a time because he knows it's going to sell 100 and he doesn't have the time to sign more than 3 things each. But it's like, okay, now you're gatekeeping your own signature. I don't even want to meet you. I just don't care. Like, that's where I would draw the line. But that's again one example versus another.
So it makes me think of, and it kind of, at least through funny story, uh adds at least another point to this conversation of meeting and signing, because I don't think the meet and greet was you didn't have to pay for. And so anyway, it reminds me of Athenar's story, because Athenar likes a lot of like classic rock kind of stuff. So in this case, Billy Squire, who who Billy Squire is, right?
Nope.
Really? The Stroke. 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 Softly stroke man. Stroke. It's in the end of
Oh,
Billy Madison and stuff.
okay. I've heard of it, but I'm not really familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's hear it for Billy Squire in the comments. Frazier would know. Well, most people
Well,
would
yeah,
know.
of course.
So anyway, Athenar, classic rock, singer Billy Squire. And so like, he's playing, this is kind of going back, and this is Athenar's story, not mine. I just thought it's fucking hilarious. So Billy Squire is out of the light, even though Adam didn't hear of him like he was a famous musician. I guess still was, but at this point he was playing Borders, the bookstore, before they went out of business, at like the coffee lounge. So like, his career is, it's doing something. So after the show, so that's how, like, 'cause how many people were at that show that like they could fit, not but also that just had interest alone, hence why they picked Borders as the touring unit, for Billy to perform an acoustic set and sign something afterward, for free. I think, or $10. So Athenar is one of those 10 people that could even fit inside the Borders coffee shop to see Billy Squire. So much as to go to Borders and do acoustic sets over coffee, I would think that you'd have a little bit more gratitude that when somebody like Athenar shows up and like, hey, I brought my whole stack of Billy Squire stuff. Can you sign it? And then like, all right, who am I signing it to? Oh, can you sign it to Jamie? His name's Jamie. So like, can you sign it like, Billy Squire to Jamie? How about I just put Billy Squire on there? So like, he came and write any more words. I don't think it was this whole stack, but like, Billy had time.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of funny that like some musicians are just dickheads. So again, be careful, because like, if you were paying $200 to meet Billy Squire at Borders and you were only allowed to get one signature, I would suggest that even if you had a good time, you kind of got ripped off. If
Yeah.
you're all
Unless
that
you have them
money.
sign your check for $2 million, that I would have them sign.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And don't put Billy Squire on that one. It's addressed to me. Forge my name.
exactly.
Frazier's he's I'm at Bobby Blitz on all my Overkill CDs. So I think Bobby Blitz signed Frazier's stuff.
Well, Frazier, I know, has a question for you, and someone else, Tomb Screamer does. Frazier wanted to know something, and he asked it twice. I got to find it again. Band would you like to meet? They did not charge, did not charge. I'm assuming, what band would you like to meet, Reaper, if they weren't charging you?
Uh, I guess probably I don't even know about the band, and I did technically meet him, but probably Nick Anderson. Um, I'm hesitant because I don't even know if I would stick around and care because I don't like unless I had something to say. So my motivation of meeting somebody would be more conversely. So just like as you
Yeah,
meet anybody, like maybe you're in a mood, maybe you're in a talkative mood. Sometimes you just want to get your food and get the fuck out of there, kind of thing. So like him, I would have something to like talk to him about. I would have like recording questions and stuff. um, and so like I don't really have that to say to a lot of people. Like I love the album, like Bobby Blitz. I love the first Overkill. See ya. like
yeah,
okay, like I would actually have something to say.
yeah.
So that's kind of why there. Tube Screamer, Tomb Screamer was saying, you will know more than I do. I wonder if some of these bigger bands doing paid meet and greets are they ever told by their labels to charge, or is it always their choice? Um, I don't know for an absolute fact, but yeah, I would definitely say that it's kind of all right. The choice of the yes, the label is saying something, but them saying something isn't like you know a dictator or something. Either to some degrees it could be, but as far as like them throwing it at you, it would be kind of like the same thing as like a writer for like a show, like the whole like Van Halen being ridiculous, asking for separate the blue M&Ms from the red kind of thing, where like it wasn't Van Halen's job to submit what Van Halen wants. It was their person that handles it. So in this context, it would be like the label like handling an event for bigger band in this case that they're kind of telling you like, hey, you pay me to run this shit. So we what are we scheduling here? Like we propose and suggest like why don't you do a meet and greet, from 2 to 4 because the show starts at 8. You're gonna get there to do sound check. Like we're gonna maximize you being in Cleveland and Toronto or whatever. That's like you're running a tight ship. So like rather than standing around, Dave, like go do some fucking meet and greets. What do you say? And he might say, I'm only going to do meet and greets that don't involve orange juice drinking, um, but taking photos for 2 seconds. And when we do, go bring in a photographer because I'm not waiting around with some guy like, did you take the fucking photo yet? Did you like bring in a fucking, that way we can get through the people too. Like, most people they're not going to want to wait in line for 200 people to slowly get their photo when their friend's taking it. So bring in a photographer. So shit like that. Like, because then he could obviously say, bring in the photographer, don't drink orange juice. I am or am not doing meet and greet. I'm not doing meet and greets, but I'm doing blowjobs. Like, so do that instead. Otherwise, we're like so like that. Like yeah, a label might be suggesting maybe not blowjobs, but meet and greet. Otherwise, okay, Dave, we get the message. We're not doing it at all. So that kind of thing. Could you imagine Megadeth doing all their cuts and exclusive blowjobs from Dave Mustaine after the show? Bay Area. That's where we where are we at these count crickets after that one. Um, I'm at Mark, the new singer for Accept. I got him assigned my TNT CD, no or.
Yep, that's Fraser.
Awesome.
Yeah, see, that's why we need Fran here. We gotta have him translate for us. He knows Fraserisms.
Oh boy. So where any more bullet points?
Well, I think I was pretty much towards the end. I do know we have a few people in the comments section still, which is cool. I wanted to just get people's opinions on my videos, not for any sort of pride or whatever. I don't really care. It's more of just seeing people who have been watching the videos, what they think. Um, Especially given, yeah, I mean, I understand you're looking at two people in the camera right now, one of which who was behind the camera for basically the majority of this channel, and now you have some other guy who you're like, who's this guy putting up daily videos? I'm sure some people are still curious. So, given I am not the guy on the other side of the video who had been doing this channel for over 10 years, I am just curious what people think. Like, is anyone enjoying what I'm doing? Do they like it? Do they think it's boring? I mean, any criticism or anything is just sort of warranted. I'm honestly curious, as long as it's something legitimate or any topics people like to see that I haven't covered, or maybe topics I've covered that people do like. Because I'm doing it for myself, but also because I want to give back to all the people who have introduced me to new music over the last few years, and especially through this channel. So hopefully I'm doing something right, because I do get at least 100 people to watch every video. So you're getting a decent amount of consistency.
Well, until they start lighting up the comments, I would think that it's kind of like what we've talked about as like previous phone calls when we have our business executive meetings. Um, but no, like that, like yeah, like in the beginning, it probably took some momentum and like people that were subscribed and expecting something, and then see you show up and what they weren't expecting and did or didn't like. Like you're kind of at a point now where those people have left the building, and there's definitely been still growth. Clearly, there's a live stream that's over 2 hours long and a solid 20 people towards the middle of it anyway. So there's got to be something that's happening that's right, that you're doing. So that would be at least from what my observation. And then obviously like checking in, not checking in, but like watching the videos myself. Like I like what you're doing. You got me off my. You got me to rant about iced earth to like, nauseum. So uh, you definitely provoked the conversation. Um, and those were your ideas of like doing something like a metal guilty pleasures type, topic. So you're going to your passion and the thing you wanted to do is kind of obviously leading you down, yeah, to at least get me to comment. But obviously, Jared says I like guilty pleasures. Um, Regardless of the comments that are showing up or will show up or don't show up in this conversation, like they do on your videos.
Yeah.
So even if, because the other thing too is like you know we don't have to go back to any sort of conversation, but in a way, to the label remark again, also like I've always thought that again, if you're building a business, but yeah, like a niche one that you're building out of passion, to succeed isn't is like you don't need as drastic of numbers of followers and peoples and stuff that it might seem when you use like the corporate Americas, the giant bands, the whatever, the misleading, I guess, to like see that like in this context, like building a community, really kind of business, record label, YouTube channel, content creators, creatives, influencers, whatever of this type of caliber, and like so to succeed, it can be in way smaller things. So a long-winded way to say that like even like as long as you even have like say 10 people that are commenting, but like commenting like Frasier type quality where it's like a biography or an autobiographical of their like story of like my guilty pleasures, or then and it just reads for like a chapter book worth of typed out. Like that guy's like really liked your video. So like if you got 10 people like that, like that's success. You know what I mean? Like because you really reached somebody. Um,
Mm.
so it's the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come kind of thing. Like and
Yeah.
how many seats are at the Billy Squire at Borders coffee room because like all those grandmas and Athenarth of the 10 people that showed up to have coffee with Billy Squire, like they really cared. So the 10 people, the 20 people, the however many people um commenting and also misleading in the creative space. I have to use that word because it's so stupid. In the video people world of YouTube, um, if you really think about it, like views, like if a lot of people will adhere to then just look at like a view count and then measure their success in that regard, but it's actually the most misleading measurement because it doesn't tell you shit. Like a view counts as 2 seconds and then fuck this guy, so like the guy writing you the personal story comment, like, right. The other views, the thousands of views that didn't write you that book, they're the 2 seconds. They're the 10
Yeah.
seconds. They're the guy that watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
But the guy that watched the whole thing wrote you a novel and then will do it every rinse and repeat. Like that's the person that really cares. That's the true story of success. That's the measurement. Because
Yeah.
it's
Of
not a
course.
million of those people when they're when you do get a million views. So
Yeah, and because I do have the social media hooked up to it, I'll give Fraser Dawson the example here because I know he even says he doesn't comment much, but he'll reach out to me in every video. He will go as far as to show me on his TV with him and his cat on the couch watching my videos, and he'll comment to me through social media what he's watching. So I know even though he's not necessarily commenting on the videos, he's engaging in the videos. And like, so I'm going to go through some of the comments. He asked whose idea was it for the guilty pleasures. Fraser, it might have been yours, honestly. I'm not 100% positive. And then Metal Neanderthal said, honestly, what you're doing isn't new, but you're doing it well. So thank you. I agree. It's not new, and that's kind of fine too. Doesn't really have to be new. I'm not super
yeah,
creative. It's just more about being honest, and that's really what matters. So from doing it well, that's all that really matters to me. Uh, and then this is a good one. So Tomb Screamer said it would be cool if I did more interviews. There's a lot of bands that are being interviewed. You're saying that are deathcore on other channels. I do have a few lined up. They're going to be a lot of smaller bands, so like local bands. So like you got here, I mentioned before, if you weren't here, Infinite Misery from Connecticut. They're a Cannibal Corpse, specifically worship band. There's a lot of smaller bands I talk to. There's a big death metal fest coming up in Connecticut in April, and I already got a hold of 4 different bands that said they would do interviews. So right now, as you know, I only have Mark from Electrocutioner. He's in Long Island, so it's not too far, but he's kind of friends with me at this point, and he said he would do another interview because his new album Harcher is coming out. So when that comes out, I want to do an interview. It might end up being virtual, but I definitely do like doing interviews. I just need to actually get questions because, like,
yeah,
so for the Dead by Dog thing, as people know, the day before, there's a few bands playing. One I can't announce, but the guy running it is pretty good friends with me at this point, and he said, hey, would you want to do an interview with like Dawn of the Dead because Nunslaughter's playing? And I said, I wouldn't mind it, but I don't know what I'd ask him. So that could get Dawn of the Dead could blow up my channel and blow up views. But the thing is, if I have no questions, that's a boring interview. Like, go watch Reaper's interview with them. I mean, you were in the band for 10 years. You have good questions to ask them. I may not have good questions. Like, I could get a hold of Corpse Grinder in an interview, but if I don't know him, and I don't know his music that much, I do, but let's say I didn't. It could be 10,000 views, 100,000 views, but the problem is I don't really know what I would ask him. So it's going to be easier to do some of these smaller bands at first because I actually know them. So hopefully that's okay with people. Just be curious what you think. And then Jared here says he enjoys the daily videos. That's awesome. I know Fraser was one of the ones calling me J Dog Part Two, which I'm not going to address that right now. I'll skip that for now. And then Jared and Jacob said that. Oh, Jared said he likes the guilty pleasures, and Jacob Brockman says he likes my videos, which is cool. And yes, to Fraser's point, you know that I watch the videos, I just don't comment. Yes, I do know. And yes, also Metal and Neanderthal. There are no guilty pleasures. I've sort of reiterated that in the videos as well. I guess it's just what you may typically not see a super underground metal person like or listen to. But again, it's me being honest with the music I have, and I have said this before. I wouldn't own it if I didn't like it. So let's see. Just going through some more real quick. Do your thing, and the right crowd will show up. I agree, W Necron, and that's also why I show up to Francisco's channel and J Dog's channel and this channel and a few other people because I do like their music. So and what they talk about. I mean,
Yeah, because
yeah,
at the end of the day, too, like we're kind of giving the naysayers a lot of light. So fuck them. Like if they're gonna
yeah,
leave anyway, like well, cool, all right, like, and that's kind of like back to the meet and greet thing. Like, like if you don't like it, don't spend the money. Like you don't like it, don't do this. Like, and if the band doesn't want to hang out with you, it's because some people are unbearable. Like, then charge them, I guess, because then it's a means of weaving out. Like, weave out is a weave out's in a pair. Comes in many different ways. Because in this context of giving the naysayers light and apologies and explanation is kind of like fuck them. They already left anyway.
yeah,
and honestly, as I'm suggesting, like the possessed demo only death metal guy, like dude, you're living 50 years in the past. Like that's your problem. Don't bring it on me with your shitty attitude. Like go fuck yourself. Like even if I did say possessed sucked or and I love blood incantation instead, like okay, like get over it.
yeah. Or you like both?
That too. Yeah. Yeah. Because like how is that not like conducive to a fandom of like if the guy that loves like let's say and all in this order. Let's say you loved Bullet for My Valentine, not the movie.
Yeah,
Chelsea Grin, Blood Incantation, Celtic Frost, Hellhammer, Mayhem's demo only, Possessed demo only, and Britney Spears. Who cares? Because you still like the demo
yeah,
only of Possessed, just like the guy that likes the demo only of Possessed. And Possessed, the band that was 15 when they made the demo, they really should be the only ones to say anything of the elitist kinds because they're the ones that created the demo. You're just a guy that listened to it and came up with some insecurity shit to make other people feel down for liking bands that you don't like because that's what's really going on. Like you just don't want to hang out with that guy for some reason because he likes Britney Spears and Chelsea Grin and demo and the Possessed demo. Like that's it. That's the only thing happening here. So
yeah.
that guy needs to go see a therapist, not hang out on YouTube ragging on somebody's video that he just watched. I mean, it's literally the scene in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back with Ben Affleck. Like, when he's talking about moviepoopshoot.com, like just sad
Yeah.
individuals that can't help but say that they hate somebody, but somehow continue to keep discussing. So, hey, Brian, there's some Ohio death metal that I think you do or don't know, Adam Terror. But then Brian,
I
you
don't know.
and then Vadiat or Vadiat. I'm not sure how you would pronounce it. Probably a plethora of ways to say it. Have you listened to them?
No, I've never heard of them either.
Vadiat. Yeah, the
No,
producer put it out. So that might be up your alley.
I'll
But
have
yeah,
to look them up. But yeah, definitely.
that's Brian that just came here. Um,
Oh, okay.
but it's been around many a time. Baphometic Fanny Packer. Reaper is the heavy metal psychologist. I was wondering if somebody's gonna like pick up on like these deep. I don't know. Like I feel like I'm looking at this shit like deep. Um, but hey, you kind of should. Like if you're some guy romanticizing a 50-year-old fucking recording that you didn't make, by the way, like, and then bringing other people down or whatever the hell, like, it's kind of pointless. Like you're wasting your time. Um, Sorry, I was making sure I didn't run out of battery there. Um, I only like Necrovore. All else is false.
False.
Whew.
Yeah, if you're false, do not entry.
That would be
There you
one
go.
boring. Like, dude, can you imagine? Like, listen, like if you're on, like, the like, because what we're also kind of saying too, at least like ragging on the elitist guy, like that's like the desert island or the abandoned island question. I don't know if it wouldn't be a desert island. I guess there could be many types of islands. Um, the
Well,
fucking
there's one you
tropical
definitely don't
island
want
in
to
the
go
middle of
to,
the
but
ocean. Okay, there we go. I'm arrived. I'm yelling at myself. Mickey Lily, glad to see Reaper back and active. Ah, thanks. Um, so anyway, Mickey, we're talking about the abandoned island and what records would you take? Like, quite honestly, that's like that could be a really boring island, and especially like after you like look, man, I know you love your Necrovore, let's say, because that's where I was going with it. Like for the guy that's like only Necrovore false, like really? So every single day on that island for the next 30 plus years, you're just gonna listen to Necrovore and never get sick of it, never start analyzing it to the point of psychological reaper. Like you are like, dude, like fuck off. Like like you know, your elitist attitude is so like not even like can you like truly imagine being on that island? You know what I mean? And all the different changes you're going to go through. Like, you're in a fairy tale land that, like, you're going to regret that Necrovore. And to at least terms of, like, not so much like not bringing it, although that might be something a realization you'll come to, but to at least of, like, I want to bring 5 more records, you know? And I know it was a joke, so I'm not saying it like that. I'm just saying it made me think of. Anyway. Misanthropy is here. Do you know Misanthropy, Adam? Me neither.
no, I did not.
But uh, that's always good when it's new folks. So Misanthropy, if you don't know Adam, watch his daily videos because he was hoping that he was building a nice crowd of elitists that'll call him out for not loving Necrovore.
Yeah, I think there's as Fraser was saying, a bunch of Texas people. So I know W. Necron and Fraser are always in Francisco's chat. So I think it's a lot of those folks who are coming in. They all know each other.
And Fraser also said, "You got some Texas people here. Oh yeah, you got to recognize sex is bigger."
Yeah, Joao. Okay, Miss
I didn't
Anthony. That makes
recognize
sense,
that.
Joao. So yeah, got some jamming out all badass fans here, but it looks like Francisco left. So he decided to leave because he saw Fraser Dawson, and then all his legion of fans came over. So, but as you know, I mean, I have it over there, but Cemeterian I own. Have the 2 Eat the Decay albums. I gave one to a buddy, so I had 3. I have 2 now. Eat the Decay CD I own. So Francisco's tired of hearing about me, and I know Hypo Christians is now available. House Headbangers, probably like 10 copies or so. So another one of Francisco's bands that he was a part of. So, and the only one I'm not really familiar with is Thy Feeble Savior. That one I wasn't a big fan of. But Cemeterian is good at both the 7 inches they did and the Eat the Decay LP. So definitely could say I'm a Fran the Man fan. Although I'm still waiting to see Dork Angel. I want to see. So Reaper, I don't know if you're familiar, but
No.
buddy in the comments here, Fraser Dawson sings for a band named Dork Angel, and I think they're soon to be signed to Metal Blade or something. I think they're gonna make it big.
That's a great like. It makes me think of like uh it happens with a lot of bands, of course, but like when cover bands start to like take on funny names. So for some reason I'm thinking of like there's a band of like all fat guys that call them, and they're a Misfits cover band, so they're called the Misfats. So like Dork Angel could be like the thrash worshiping like band, but then like yeah, they all wear like glasses and like are just a bunch of dorks, but then it's like
Well, it's like
raging
the Ned
thrash.
Flanders band.
Yeah,
They all
well,
dress up like Ned
yeah,
Flanders.
yeah, exactly. But Dork Angel would, I think Dork Angel would be even funnier.
The
Yeah,
lead
Cannabis
singer's got to look like,
Corpse.
yeah, Cannabis Corpse. Yeah, the lead singer of Dork Angel, Fraser, you got to dress up like Steve Urkel.
Yeah, that would be great. But then it's like, well, yeah, because I was about to say, all right, for a second there, it made me think of like the theme bands. So like the problem I have with the Ned Flanders band. And I was about to say that Dork Angel should do like if you dress up like Steve Urkel, don't sing like Steve Urkel, because then like the
No.
joke wouldn't be as funny. Because then it's like
Yeah.
awesome. But then again, the joke goes the opposite way. So then it made me think of like Austrian Death Machine, the guy from As I Lay Dying doing that, where it's like, well, then you got to sing like Arnold the whole time, because then he doesn't. Like he just does an Arnold impression before the songs, and then they're just like normal like death thrash songs, and it's just like, oh, like that would have been funny for a band called Austrian Death Machine for to be like death metal with good death metal riffs, but then every song sounds like Arnold singing the whole time.
Yeah.
Kind of like Cannabis Corpse, then, where like that works too, because like, you know, every song being death metal that you wouldn't otherwise maybe know them being about weed. Like, you know, like jokes have to be careful, because then Ned Flanders one, like, if they dress like Ned Flanders, like they kind of should sing like Ned. So they're kind of losing the potential that their Austrian Death Machine kind of led, because like it'd be kind of funnier than if it was like, well, hi diddly ho, like, you know, like the whole
Yeah.
time, and then making that work, like making it work
Well,
because it's so funny, but then it's like this is kind of badass at the same time, you know?
it
Like
goes
this is
back to your
sweet
point
riffs.
about Twisted Sister too. If you're not familiar with the fact that Dee Schneider's dressing up in a dress or dress, women's clothes with the giant hair and makeup and everything, and you just hear them, you go, "Oh yeah, this is just a regular hard rock band." But then when you see them live, you're like, "Oh wow, okay, that's why they're called Twisted Sister."
Yeah, exactly. Um, and there's been band like that makes me think of that band Pretty Little Flower, because like
I'm a
like
huge fan of them.
right, because isn't that their shtick? Where like it's death metal, you're like, what the fuck, you know? And then but then you listen to it, it's like, well, it's death metal. Like, well, why do they call it Pretty Little Flower? Like, because of that, like to
Yeah.
piss you off. It's funny. Like, it's not what you're expecting. We need more. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a shortage of it or whatever, but some jokes would be funny. In fact, I did get wind that there is a group of Christians that are very outraged about Slayer, and they have an idea how they can right the wrong of satanic lyrics. Um, but I'm not going to tell you because it's basically there's an idea that I pitched around in 10th grade, and then it was always we got close to actually doing it, and it was kind of this parody kind. Um, and well, me and Zach from Necrofilth, who used to be in Crucified Mortals and Nunslaughter back in the day, I haven't talked to him for a while, and so I spoke to him, and he's like, "Dude, that project that you're hinting at right now in this live stream, let's do that. We've been talking about it for 20 years, so I think we're finally gonna do it." And I don't want to
Nice.
give away too many secrets, because I think some of the joke is in how it's presented with anonymity, so that our character names can be protected, because it wouldn't be as funny if you thought it wasn't real. Kind of like some
Hmm.
asshole said that Chris Barnes does so many hilarious covers, people probably would believe that 6 Feet Under did a Christmas cover album. Like, if we said who that asshole really was and not say that it was actually Chris Barnes, it's not as funny, because the internet still believes that Chris Barnes did that, and I don't want to tell them who really did it.
I mean, it sounds just like him. Pretty sure I believe it. Actually, if anything, he should be doing the Cannabis Corpse. It's literally Cannibal Corpse, but about weed, which is basically him anyway. So
Did you
kind
listen
of
to
missed the
that
mark on
interview
that one.
that he just did?
The one with Garza, or
Yeah.
no, I
Yeah.
haven't seen that one. I saw the shorter one with the another person who I think actually your brother's going to try to get to hook him up. It was a really
Here's
short
Miss
interview though. It
Anthony.
was only like 10 minutes. But no, I didn't see the Garza one yet.
Oh, it's good. It gets boring
Yeah,
towards
the
the
only
end when they're like just kind of doing like Seamster chat, and then like people that you don't know who they're talking about. But before then, he gets Chris to go on a real deep dive. Um, and not like like to the point like Chris is about to cry. I'm not gonna spoil it
oh
for you. Like it. Well, yeah, his parents just died,
oh okay.
so he like kind of talks about like he does like like he talks about his like yeah how his relationship with his mom and stuff, and like how she used to read him like he recite that he's like because then Gar like he's basically saying like my interest in like death metal and shit and darker things stems from like when I was a 3-year-old, because my mom would like read me this scary, it's really from scary, it's one of the stories from Scary Stories That's Tell in the Dark, although that's not what it was. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, if you don't know, is like a collection of like urban legends, let's just say, Crybaby Bridge and stuff to that effect. So like Chris's mom was telling him one of the stories that Scary Stories in the Dark like compiled. So the one about the hearse, like if you see a hearse cross by, you'll be the one to die. So that was kind of cool then, because it's like Chris would be older to hear the urban legend story from his mom and not know it from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark that came out in 1986, I want to say, that Reap Dog knows it about. So like that was cool. That was a nice, like, so yeah, like deep dives. It wasn't just like a sob fest. Oh, my mom just cried. Let me tell you a story. Like it was like kind of cool then. Like, and it would only happen like, on a little bit more organic, just conversation in a 3 hour discussion that Garza had with them. So, it was the best thing that Barnes has done in a long time. An interview, outside his, because the only thing missing that was like, Chris, look, we're friends here and we're talking about shit talking. I'm not shit talking. Just got ears. Gotta ask, how did you think it was a good idea to cover ACDC? So that's my only complaint about the interview. Otherwise, it's good. Check it out.
Yeah, no, definitely will. Yeah, Fraser's saying I got to check out W Necron's channel. I guess saying he did a video with it because for some reason my comments aren't loading, so I'm kind of going back through. No, you said the channel, The Witching Hour. That's W Necron's channel, so I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with it. I got to get onto those or older channels I just haven't been familiar with. So, I credit J Dog for turning me on to Jamming Out All Badass. So, all the other Texas people in the comments who have their own channels like W Necron, yeah, I'm late to the game, guys. So, I'm definitely going to check out your channels too, because that's another part of it. Why would you come check me out if I'm not going to go check out your channels? Like, people have been doing this way longer than I have. That's how I got into it. That's the reason I got this job. Was Reaper was like, hey, man, we need some young strapping kid to take after me, and we couldn't find him, so we found the next best thing.
Right.
So,
Hey,
and I was inspired. I've told the story, but my physical collection grew from only maybe 20 CDs and no LPs to over 1,000 pieces of physical media because of basically two people, and that's Reaper and J Dog. So it was Hellcast, Justin's channel, you being part of Nunslaughter, which is where Unbaptized Records came from, which for those who don't know, Unbaptized is a song on the album Hex, which Reaper played on. I was going to name myself Hex Records, but I think some jabroni already took it, so I went with Unbaptized instead. So it's like, it only makes sense that, myself just as a fan who just was lucky enough to land in the seat, Reaper was willing to, let me come out and do some videos for him, that I'd be checking out other channels too, because that's how I got to where I am now. So yeah, just to
Barnes
bring
lives in
that full
Seattle,
circle.
yes, by the way. And
Yes.
that's cool. And that's kind of what it's all about. And I think everybody here obviously appreciates that, because that's the kind of the organic nature that we speak of, as we were speaking about it earlier. Um, and so as we've kind of hit a nice solid 22 for a while, had some good discussions, and got some good activity going on in the comments. We also have been here for nearly 3 hours. So this guy's getting thirsty, hungry, and all the above, and maybe the other guy is too. So by all means, buy us food by throwing in a super chat, because you really had a great 3 hours. Otherwise, make sure that you're checking out Adam's daily videos, because he's essentially keeping this channel up and running. So it's through his passion and devotion that if you're getting anything out of it, obviously through what I set up and then kind of I don't know about abandoned, but like handed off to trustworthy rightful hands. Then stick around and keep watching that. So if this is a news flash for you, as it was apparently to a few people that mentioned that they haven't seen your stuff, well, the daily videos, it is quite the commitment. So definitely don't make the effort unworthy on or not worth it from Adam's end, putting in the hard work. Check those out. um we'll obviously be doing, I don't know if it's obvious, so let's make it obvious. So we're trying to do a monthly Reaper rants that we're calling this live stream kind of thing. Sometimes I just do off the cuff stuff too, because I got like a long drive home, and Well, that's why it's called Reaper Rants. So it's like not that's the promise. Like you're gonna get off the cup rants in the form of a live stream. So the monthly aspect of it at least is going to be a group one like this that we've been failing miserably because I think it's been about 6 months since we did the last one. It was definitely the summertime. I think we were talking about the Dusseldorf vampire or murderer or whatever, the cannibal guy that uh, found a guy on Craigslist and to voluntarily cut off his dong and take a picture of, and then
Yeah.
cook it and eat it. Because then we're talking about the sick world of sick lyrics, I guess. That's how you really offend mom. Like, I'm just approaching realities of humanity, man. To Dusseldorf, like his actions, not mine. I'm just retelling them, you know.
Yeah,
Instead of
exactly.
um but yeah, so there you go. There is your summary of what to expect here moving forward as I try to depart here. And Adam's obviously going to do the same. I mean, I don't know. You could still keep going on the live stream but I think closing it closes you out too.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my phone to not die here, but yeah, I think the only last closing comments, just let me know in the comments of every video if you want to, if you can. Anyone who's watching now, I'm always curious the feedback, man. The good, the bad, the ugly. If you think something I do is stupid, let me know in the comments. As long as you're being honest, I don't really care. I don't see it as hate comments because I want to deliver to the people who are watching my videos. There's really no point in me ranting about something no one cares about because I could do that with a video off. So if people are actually interested and they like it, I love the feedback. I had one comment ended up turning into a video. I thought that was cool. And otherwise, the ideas like the guilty pleasures or got a shout out to the Bucks. So if you don't know, one of the top four supporters of the dog, myself, Robert Green, and the Bucks, and another guy named Tommy Becker, who I don't know, but three of the four of us are all kind of friends with each other. And the Bucks suggested I do a video of my favorite bands from each state. So I'm going to probably do that next. That's next on my list. But the Guilty Pleasures one was thrown around, just discussions of the stuff that I like. I mean, it's always cool to see what people like and don't like in the comments and shit. So, and then love for local bands too, like bands that are local to me, local to Reap Dog. I've seen a lot of love for Graveworm recently, which is cool. And I know Kevin the Graveworm comments a lot. Jan Raidmaker has commented a few times. Adam a Cardiac Arrest. So a lot of people in bands that I'm now learning about, that I've learned about through this channel. Some of these guys are like actually commenting on the videos, which is really cool. So it's just like sharing the love and getting people to buy Redefining Darkness and Seeing Red releases. Buy Reaper's music from his channel. Buy Hell's Headbanger stuff. Check out Jamming Out All Badass and his Eat the Decay LPs and stuff. So yeah, just keep that going. And then eventually, when I have Unbaptized Records, Reap and I have some stuff going on. There's a Crucified Mortals tape we want to get out. That'll hopefully be really cool. Like I said, I'm working with the YouTuber here, Killbot, and I also want to do giveaways, and that is supported by people watching the video. Occasionally sending in the super chats, which we didn't have today, which is unfortunate. But
There's
um,
still
I
time.
have this I have this stack of tapes or CDs right here. So these are all 10 of the Reap Dog Connection Reaper Metal CDs. So the Faith Extract here, Spawn of Satan, stuff like that, Hellraiser releases. I'm also a huge fan of myself. So if you are all interested in a giveaway, I want to give away all 10 of these CDs in one pack. So let me know in the comments if people are interested, and then maybe I can go through the list here of everyone who was in the live chat and just pick one of the names, put it in a wheel, and then maybe announce it in a short video in the next few days. So before we leave, just the next 2 minutes or so, give me a shout out. Just do a thumbs up, a yes, I'm in, whatever it is. Anyone in the comments, if you're interested in the giveaway, just let me know, and then I'll scroll through the comments section later on and maybe do a video picking someone. So that's another thing I'm passionate about, as Reaper knows, is giving away music because I like
Yeah.
other people to hear the same stuff that I've heard. So if you're interested, just let me know in the comments, and I want to try to do a giveaway every month or so. So that's another aspect of the channel.
So the thumbs up is going to enter the lucky potential of winning. Did you want?
Yes. So anyone interested of the 13 people left, in the comments, just give me some indication. Thumbs up, yes, I'm interested, whatever it is, so that I can pick your names, put them in a hat, maybe this hat, I don't know, or put them in one of those wheels that the internet can create for me, and then do a short, little shorts video. And well, Frazier, you own these already, man. You're gonna have 2 copies.
That's cool, and it's awesome to hear Baphometic, Fanny Packer, or anybody, and you as well, Adam. Like, well, appreciating all the above, yes, but the Spawn of Satan, because that's a near and dear project for me that I played on, and I got to help out and be involved in that band as a fan. So then that was really cool because then like it was just a position of like being a fan of something, but then being like what enabled it to then be around to do more stuff because there was only then one release. So then my involvement created more releases to contribute writing and blah blah blah, because then also more so like that stuff would have just like vanished literally, at least some of the material that's on that recording anyway, because then it would like I finished the project of like in like Jim was always the like that was his baby. So like when he died, like nobody had the recordings. Nobody knew that there were lingering recordings. Nobody was even pitching around the idea of putting this out. There was actually supposed to be like a split with Insanity on his dying bed. That was kind of like Jim's last project. That seemed to be so. Like there was a song that would have resulted in that. But at the end of the day, like nobody knew, and it's not like I was like, well, it is like, and I was there, like so, like I knew because like we fucking wrote the songs, we recorded them. Jim didn't finish his vocals on one of them because otherwise, like they're at the studio on that guy's hard drive. Like Jim's dead. He can't give out coordinates of what studio that was. So that's how I kind of tracked it down. Like, hey man, like I know Jim was like working on this project. You have those files. What do you need so we can complete the mix, the project, blah 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 blah. And so that's kind of how like through those the generosities of really Noah from Nunslaughter, because he records a lot of shit. He recorded 3 of the songs, maybe 4 of them. So through him willing to finish the project, and then another guy from a different studio, they both put in the time and just finished the songs and sent them over to me. So, efforts like that kind of made it a legacy piece, really, to for Jim, but then obviously for the survivors and people that worked on it, including myself. I wasn't alone. Obviously, there was drummers and about 4 other people that were involved. But some people aren't as vested in the project or know where it goes after they do their thing. So I was that guy. So at the end of the day, I just really appreciate that. Like, it was not just to create a CD for the fuck of it. It was also, more to it. So to see it out there then and being appreciated with a fuck yeah, as was mentioned, well, then that's pretty damn awesome. So yeah, thought that would be a fun little story for you. But also, anybody appreciating that Spawn of Satan stuff. So this goes for you too, Adams. I don't know if you knew. Like there was like hours of material to sift through. Like that would be far more than just a double disc. And not all like some of it's like getting into the burp and far area of like, all right, it's like a 10-second band instrumental only of an idea on a rehearsal tape, because otherwise there is stuff a little bit more than that you can get for free and at least just jam if you go to the Reaper Metal Bandcamp and then Spawn of Satan.
Mm-hmm.
You can just it's all there for streaming. I figured technology
Yeah.
could help us in that regard. Like it kind of like hey, put Hellcast on an LP. Like you could just listen to it for free on the internet, and an episode's 3 hours long, or they were. Like that's not going to fit on an LP or be affordable. And then times 300 episodes or however many there were. Like you know what I mean. So same with the kind of the rehearsal thing. So in that regard, technology is kind of helping us out, and it's pretty cool to be able to do. So yeah.
Yeah. Or if you were on the Patreon back in the day, like I was, I got access to that Spawn of Satan. I don't know if you remember, but you gave it to us as an exclusive. So
Yeah.
certain levels of the Patreon, you got the exclusive Spawn of Satan, like the burp fart kind of stuff you're saying, like you and Jim riffing on something for a minute and a half. So that actually have on a CDR sitting over in my corner somewhere. And someone else mentioned Head Split Records. You know, Dylan put out the tape, so I have that as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, you can get the tape of the Spawn of Satan split because I actually have on my wall a signed split by Reap Dog himself, which goes back to our signed music conversation. But before I met Reaper, I had him sign a bunch of stuff for me, and then met him in person and deluged him with every single album that I own except the tapes. So it was all the LPs and CDs that you signed, and Eddie Satan as well signed that 7-inch he was on, which was cool. So mentioning Robert G in the comments, he has the other one, so I got two signed. So very few people out there have that 7-inch, I'm sure, signed by Reaper and Eddie Satan, and I'm one of them, and Robert G's another one. So, and hopefully I get to meet Ash out in Dead by Dog. He said he'll be out there, so get all
Oh,
three
cool.
people on that CM split signing that.
Yeah, that'd be. Yeah, I texted Ash recently. I forgot that you hadn't met him yet. He said he was coming up to that, so it'd be cool to see him. I haven't seen him in forever.
Yeah, so that's another thing. I'll be at Dead by Dog and the Bucks pre-show, and in fact, I can't show it yet because the lead band is TBA to be announced. But for those who don't know, the Bucks putting on the pre-show. My wife and I actually created the flyer for that show.
Dude, TBA plays every show.
I know they're great, man. And it's funny. I actually have a copy of their demos right next to me. I can't show it, obviously, but uh, uh, after March 20th or so, you all know who'll be headlining that show. So, you know, you get out to Dead by Dog on June 21st, and then June 20th at No Class, the show before that, I'll be there as well. So, for some reason, you want to say hi to me. I don't understand why you would, but if you do, I'll be there. Uh, so, and then I'm hoping to meet a bunch of other cool people out there too and bring stuff to get signed. But I know Reef said he's hungry and tired and thirsty and all that, and I understand. I got a cat on me that is falling asleep. So, just one last time for anyone who didn't remember, give me a thumbs up or a yes or some sort of indication
They
you
all
want to do this
forgot.
giveaway. I got a couple of CDs here. A few people did, so that's cool. I will throw you into a thing to pick one at random. But otherwise, Les Reaper, you have anything else to add? We're approaching on 3 hours, and not a single person has given us a super chat. So I think it's time we say goodnight and call it a day here.
Indeed. If cats are falling asleep, then human beings are getting closer. So thank you all for joining us. We don't know where we'll be next time, but hey, it's the same people to different people too. So you kind of get the gist is the point. And we can just show up at random. So that I can promise. When I don't know. Random, yes. Um, so yeah, that. And no, that really nothing but a blow fest now. So I've done enough blowing. Um, so Zario B. But yeah, links in the description. And hey, support the underground by getting all your music needs at Walmart.